Let's start. Peg.
Hi, Peggy Taylor, Commissioner.
Tom Burnett, Commissioner. Brian Ross, Commissioner from Bozeman.
McKenna Gray, Commissioner Designee for OPI.
Carmen, are you there?
She's just coming in.
Okay. Carmen, your turn. Good morning.
Yep. Good morning. I'm Carmen Cuthbertson,
Oops.
Commission member from
Hold
Calais.
on, Carmen, we don't have any, just a second. Okay, go again, sorry.
I'm assuming we're doing introductions. I'm Carmen Cuthbertson from Commission member from Kalispell. Good morning.
And we're missing Tammy. She had surgery and we wish her the best of luck. And we've been thinking of her. Okay, go ahead, Jenny.
I'm Jenny Stapp. I'm the state librarian. I'm Tracy Cook with the state library.
Okay. Hey, and we'd like to welcome all of our Federation ladies over here. Thank you for being here. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
There's a mail.
Mail? Oh,
Wait,
I'm
what?
sorry. Sorry.
Stu.
Sorry, Stu. I called you a lady. Sorry, Stu. Okay, so are there any changes to the agenda?
Robin, I'd like to make a statement at the end of the meeting. Just will be very brief, please.
Okay. Remind me.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Before we go, before we get on to our business items, I'd like to remind everyone that if we have any questions, we are asking Peggy to help us out. Another reminder, if we're struggling to phrase a motion, I as chair may allow a discussion on how the motion should be phrased. Not in all motions, but using my discretion, I may allow everyone a discussion so that we can get it worked out. To be respectful of everyone's time and ours, I'd like to ask that informal presentations be no longer than 10 minutes. And the public comment is limited to 3 minutes. And if I need to, we will extend it. Okay, on to business items, the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything want anything pulled from the consent agenda to be discussed separately? That includes the minutes from the August 13th, 2025 meeting. Okay, as there is none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there?
I'll second it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as is. Is there any further discussion? Is there any public comment? Seeing as there is none, we'll now vote on the motion, which is to accept the consent agenda as is. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
Aye.
Sorry, Carmen.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. All those opposed say nay. Okay, it is, the consent agenda has been approved by a voice vote. Okay, we would like to welcome, as I already said, we have our Federation coordinators here. They have their fiscal year 2025 Federation reports. We're happy to see you all. Does anybody have any comments that they would like to share with us?
If you'd like to come on up and chat with you, the coordinators and I met yesterday and we just chatted. And I asked them to share kind of what's going on in their region, because I think you find that very interesting, as well as Carmen had asked if they would report on the trustee training and the use of those funds. I think that they have all found that trustees are enjoying it, and it's certainly making it easier for them trustees and boards to meet that standard of the 3 hours per year. This is the first time we've never had any library request a deferral for that. So that's been wonderful.
Good.
So I asked him to talk a little bit about how that is going as well. And so I don't know who wants to go first. I'm not going to make you go in alphabetical order. That's usually what we would always do. So.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
John,
please,
just
if
come
you
and
will.
have a seat.
Yeah.
Join us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Jack.
So Jonna, Sheridan County Library in Plentywood. So, yeah, I think the trustee training, has been really nice, for our Golden Plains Federation. I haven't had anybody attend to this point, and at this last training we had from our federation, I think it was 8, 10 trustees attend. And that, I thought that was really marvelous.
That's fun.
They got a lot out of it. 3 of my own trustees went with. And we had great conversation on the way back. We all rode together in the car and lots of questions and lots of discussion about what we could do and going forward. And so it was really nice, and they just got so much out of it. They didn't realize what all went into library work, I guess. And so it was a good training and very nice, and they really appreciated it. So it was very good. The rest of Golden Plains is just moving along just steadily. The James E. Shanley Library just got a new director just recently, Leslie Bighorn. I have not had the chance to meet her in person or an email yet, because I had the wrong email address. I was emailing somebody else, not Leslie. But we finally got that straightened out. So hopefully, I hope to meet her soon. And the rest of us are doing just fine. We're just moving along and getting through our summer readings. We're getting that wrapped up, and so far not any real major issues with our federation. So we're doing pretty well.
Wonderful. And I hear you have a suggestion for us.
Yes, yes. My suggestion- Put me on the spot. That was
Sorry,
last night. So my suggestion was, it's wonderful to go to all parts of the state, and I suggest, and I'm gonna throw Sarah Peterson under the bus a little bit here, and that traveling to Miles City might be a great place for the commission to meet at some point for a meeting for those of us out in the eastern part of the state. So that's my suggestion. Any questions
Right.
about Golden Plains?
Go ahead and ask any questions if you want to. That's great. I'm excited that 3 of your,
I am too.
yeah,
It was
3,
good.
that's
Got a
great.
good little-
3
Trustees.
tongue tied, 3 yeah, I can't even.
I
say it.
know.
Forget it.
We know.
Yeah,
All right. Well, thank you very much.
thank you,
Yep.
Donna.
Yep.
That's a question.
Oh, sorry, Carmen, you had a question? Her hand's up. Just a second, Donna.
Just one technical comment, the owl is not working right. A lot of the pictures are just blurry. I don't know that we need to fix that because I can hear everything. And then just as a small matter, we were told as trustees in Kalispell not to ride in the car, 3 of us together, because it could be construed as you having a meeting, because there's 5 of us, 3 would be a quorum. So we make very, very sure that anytime 3 of us are in one place, we announce that. And we announce that no business is being conducted. Just as general information. I personally think with the distances we travel, to travel in one car is very sensible. But we were told to be careful about that and make sure we announce that we're doing that, and just saying it's for travel and no library business is being discussed.
Good reminder on that.
Good reminder. Yes, thanks,
Yes.
Carmen. Okay, we have Abby from Polson and I could Tamarack.
Tamarack.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Abby Dooley from the Tamarack Federation. So our federation has had spring retreat, we call them retreats, they're not really retreats, but spring trainings, as long as I've been there, so over a decade. And so this last spring, we met in Polson, and we had about 35 attendees altogether for each day, both online and in person. And it was really nice. We got to do several different things. We had a breakout in the morning for trustees to be able to just chat with each other about things that they were concerned with. We had a session on resources for trustees, parliamentary procedure, local government relationships, and then we had a session on working with friends and foundations as well. So that was a really good one. And then we'll have another retreat in the spring in Polson again. So more opportunity for training for our trustees. I think for us in Western Montana, the challenge continues of the cost of living increasing. And so that's always a bit of a challenge for us. But with our libraries, we have 3 libraries that I'm aware of. So Flathead County Libraries, Bitterroot Public Library and North Valley Public Library are all looking at either building or remodeling their buildings, and so we're really seeing a big influx of that in our federation. For our library in Polson, we completed our renovation in 2023, and it has just boomed. We have seen a huge increase in visitors, and just everyone that comes in has nothing but good things to say. And I think people do really value having a bright space, an accessible space, and just a really welcoming place to be and bring their children and attend programs and have a good time.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
And it is, I can attest to that, it's beautiful.
thank you.
So you use the same building and.
We
and
did.
remodeled.
So we used the same building that was built in 1989. We didn't want to move locations, but we had about, I think it was about 2,500 square feet of space that when the original building was built was used as an art gallery. And so that had turned into storage space and really wasn't being used. And so we were able to just reclaim that space and just add to our public area, and really worked out for us.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Tom, yes.
What are the numbers on the boom?
Oh my gosh. Well, we jumped back to our pre-COVID numbers within the first month even, we jumped back. And we've just continued to see, I can't quote me, but I want to say every month we're right around, especially in the summer, right around 5,000 visits per month. And of course that varies throughout the year, but Polson's definitely a summer destination, but yeah, we just saw a huge increase in people, and we just don't feel like it ever slowed down. So it's
well,
just,
good.
it's just been continuous, which is great.
And Tamarack includes Missoula, which they,
It
I'm
does.
sure they have a huge,
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
we do have two of the bigger
Right,
libraries in
right.
ours, Missoula and Kalispell, so.
and yeah, and
And Carmen's,
then you
yeah.
have Carmen.
Yeah.
that's with the Flathead. But is it Flathead Valley or is it Flathead County?
It's the county library.
County.
And we might be the only federation who have an event planner, certified event planner, running our federation meetings, and they're just fabulous. So thank you.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Thanks, Carmen.
Wonderful. That's fun. All right, well, thank you, Abby. Okay. We have Nancy from South Central.
That is me. Well, I have been the coordinator at South Central for 10 years, so it is for the long haul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen our ups and downs. We considered doing the retreat, but my librarian said, no, we don't. We like to get together, but nobody had that amount of time in one block that they could do this. So we've went to mini training sessions. That's what we're using our extra funds for. And the first year it was a little iffy because of the weather didn't cooperate. But next week we have 2 of them planned, and then we have a couple of them planned.
And the weather. It's coming.
Sorry.
Sorry.
You're done. I have to go to Lewistown next week again.
Oh,
so-
no. Gee.
Hey, if I can go to Chico during that storm that hit, I can go to Lewistown. That's not a
Oh, well,
problem.
there you go.
But for the last 3 federation meetings, we've had every library have at least one trustee attend. Whether it's in person or on Zoom, but a lot of them are opting to be in person, except for the little tiny libraries that are way up in the corner of the region.
Right.
So we consider it a success. I did have Chris Goss come in and give us a talk on library laws, open meeting laws, which I think he needs to talk to our boards and commissioners, just saying, putting that out there.
Well, there's training, because I took some training about the open meeting laws.
I know there
last
is,
week,
but
yeah.
I had a discussion with my CAO in my city, and he's telling me I need to go talk individually, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. But the federation members have really enjoyed the ability to get to these meetings, to whether it's, like I said, either virtually or in person to attend them. We had a couple libraries that weren't sure how they were going to use their funds for training. And one library bought a big screen TV and everything so that they could do Zoom meetings. I've been encouraging my trustees to go on to the MSL Learn and watch the videos there, and then we discuss them in my meetings so that we're getting our training one way or another. You know, it's been interesting.
So yours includes Denton and Stanford.
Mhm.
And
More.
Stanford has a cool library too.
They do.
Very
I've been in
nice,
that.
Very
Yeah.
beautiful, yeah. Yeah, I haven't been to the Denton one, but yeah.
It's
I
very
mean,
small.
Denton, Stanford. I mean, wow, it's
Yeah.
huge.
It-
mean, our federations, some of them are huge.
Yeah, I mapped it out one day, and the geographical center of our federation is Roundup.
Oh,
So,
round up.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna,
And then
I-
Donna, sorry, Donna, we
Yeah,
should talk, yeah. Go ahead.
so our next meeting's in Forsyth, and I'm gonna try to bring in
Oh.
a speaker for the afternoon as part of,
Forsyth is in yours. Oh, interesting,
yes, Forsyth, Bighorn County,
right,
Coal Strip,
right.
and
Oh my
then
gosh. And then Miles City is in the,
Sagebrush.
yeah,
Sagebrush.
Sagebrush, right?
Yes, yeah. Forsyth and Coal Strip used to be in Sagebrush.
Oh, okay,
And then they-
but they moved.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
about the time
interesting.
I was starting as director that it moved over. We've just there's so many things going on in libraries, and I'm looking for that really quiet Thursday afternoon. I can get things done. It's not happening. Just the technology alone is causing growing pains for everybody. Yeah, we also are looking to, hopefully in the future, add on to our library. It was also suggested that we switch buildings with the church across the street.
Oh.
They have classrooms.
Oh,
Oh, there's an idea, isn't it?
oh, oh,
It-
well, how does the church feel?
They're the ones that suggested it.
Oh,
Oh, interesting.
It is, yeah, because they're shrinking, their congregation is
Right.
shrinking.
Yeah.
And we keep growing leaps and bounds with all the programming and, in this little tiny back room that we just have no room for anybody to. I mean, if
Oh,
one group's in there,
interesting.
another one has nowhere else to be, so.
right,
Plus all of our little cubby holes in the library that people like to sit in and hide out. We've got these really comfy chairs and not much. So, it's a home away from home. We just don't feed you and that kind of thing. But yeah, we've seen our
You feed the
numbers.
mind.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, there we go.
we
Yes.
do feed the mind. Sometimes we question what we're feeding your mind, but but all of my libraries have reported an increase number
Oh, nice.
of patrons coming in. It's great.
Oh, good.
Libraries, even though we've had this fight for what now, 2-3 years about, what libraries stand for and whatnot, we've just held the line and said, this is what we're here for. Keep your opinions on that side. This is where we're at. So,
Great.
Carmen has a question.
okay.
Carmen has. a
Hi,
question.
Nancy. I was just wondering what the mini sessions are. Are they shorter in time or fewer people, or what did you switch from and what did you switch to make it work better?
Carmen, we've always held a 2-hour session in the afternoons at our federation meetings. They are 2 to 3 hours, so it's not any shorter. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, and we're just bringing in things that everybody can use more in depth, as like the just
Chris Goss.
yes. The open meeting laws, things that we're encountering as librarians that are like being questioned. And so we're bringing in training on anything that can give us a more solid foundation on how to work our libraries.
And I think they wanted that because it was shorter distances
Yes.
to go to the mini trainings, right?
It is, yeah. So we had one in Columbus and it was great. We had 5 or 6 people there. And yes, it was a smaller group. And the one in Red Lodge will probably have the trustees from all the Carbon County libraries, plus whomever else happens to attend. And then in Lewistown, we are looking at the Denton and Moore and Stanford trustees attending that. So yeah, it's smaller. but more people can attend the minis.
Yeah, I think that's great that you can respond to the geographical realities of your federation.
It is interesting.
You should see her face.
Or not.
Hey, Tom.
Answered my question.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow, two first.
Good. Great. Well, thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much. Okay, we have Val from Pathfinder.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we have 14 libraries in our federation, going from Harlem on the east all the way to Glacier or Cut Bank. Well, and then we have 3 tribal libraries in our federation as well. So, and clear down to Cascade on the south. So we are a
Huge
big,
too, yes.
you know, and we have been doing meetings in Fort Benton, which is our central location for a long time. Bonnie Williamson set that up before she left, and it works well for us, because it's easy enough to figure out your travel budget. So our trustee training funds were used to pay for Chris Goss to come do library laws. And then we also purchased an owl camera to help better facilitate the meetings. And then the balance was divided amongst the libraries to use for trustee training. We really, my board is really happy with the online trainings that Chris Goss has done. And that's what we've been using. We split them between 2 meetings, but you know, he's great. Most of the libraries in our federation use their federation funds for OCLC and Montana Library to Go. And then shared catalog and a couple that do Follett and for Pathfinder meetings. The positive comments or the comments that we got were, you know, one county has had a budget freeze since 2023. And one library stated that without that federation funding, it would be impossible to provide even the most basic services to their patrons. And the federation meetings are often the only time that trustees have a chance to meet trustees from other libraries and receive in-person training. And I had one library that said the Montana Library to Go accounts for 1/3 of their patron usage. And without that opportunity, the Montana Library to Go provides many patrons would be disenfranchised due to the cost of the digital subscription. And I echo that at our library as well. And patrons have repeatedly expressed how important being able to download books is for them. We had a request, our trustees in our federation specifically asked for split trainings. So the directors have one training and the trustees have another training. They find that much more beneficial. So that's been our goal, and we did do that at our fall meeting. And I think it was real positive for our members.
I heard it was. That's positive.
Yes. Yes.
Any
Yeah, any
questions? for Val?
Val, I was struck when you said that, was it your library or another library that 1/3 of its usage?
Not my library,
But a
but
third,
third, yeah.
a third
And
of
ours is up there too.
could you estimate how much?
Probably not quite 1/3, but it's pretty darn close.
But this library, so these are 1/3 of your users are not visiting your library in
Right.
person, correct?
Well, the, the initial, when they're signing up, almost all of them, we have to walk them through it and, show them how to do it. But there are a lot that, I think it's important to remember that we are very rural. And, a lot of our patrons are 60 miles out of town on a dirt road. As well as in this other library, they are a small rural library.
So a significant portion of your library use is electronic resources.
Yes.
I would just point out, Tom, it's not nil.
That's right. And I'm more educated on that subject.
Thank you.
it's, yes, absolutely.
And I have a question. I'd be curious to see if you're seeing an increase in the younger generations doing the library to go. Or if it's a combination. I ask because my daughter uses the Montana Library to go quite often to get her books and things. And I use it too, but I was just wondering if there's an increase in that because that's their life is this.
Right. My gut instinct would be yes.
Yeah,
That is
so it's
accurate.
interesting that
Um,
they're losing the libraries, but just
But
in a
I'm
different way.
surprised how many older people have,
Oh, yes.
you know, embraced it and started using it as
Right.
well. But initially I would say, yeah, definitely, but you know, because I always say if you can't figure it out, find a 10-year-old and they'll tell you how to do it.
Yes.
And sounds funny, but it's the truth.
No, it is.
That it. Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Susan from Broad Valleys.
Carmen raised her.
Oh, Carmen, I'm sorry. Did you have a question for Val?
That's okay. I don't actually have a specific question. It's a slightly off topic, but it just hearing this made me think that the state library should try to create videos on how to access Library to Go. Because I think there's maybe more demand and maybe more people would use it if they knew how. I had a misunderstanding myself when I tried to figure it out because I thought I had to go through my Kindle, but you don't really. You can, get your books online on your laptop or wherever, and then just have them downloaded to your Kindle. So it was a different process from what I expected. And if more and more people read through the Kindle, reading is what I think we need to promote any way we can. Training on here's how you use your Kindle, here's how you get onto Library to Go would be great. Maybe MSL could provide some video training on that so that small libraries can just put their patron in front of a screen and say, watch this, and it'll explain, instead of having to do it in person with each individual to explain to them how to use their device and how to access Library to Go. So just an idea that came up, if a third of your patrons are reading through that medium, let's encourage that, because we should encourage reading any way people want to do it. So that just came to my mind. Thanks.
If I may,
Nancy?
what she said about the state library doing the videos, there are some out there, aren't there? That's what I thought. Also, if the idea is to just set your patron down in front of the screen and say, watch this, still doesn't work. We've been doing it too long.
One-on-one.
It has to be one-on-one because you have to be ready and able to answer any question that may go wrong. Yeah, as good as we are at showing videos, we still need to be able to do the one-on-one. To help people with them.
Okay.
Ask my tech guy, he's always been.
Right. I see that Sarah from Miles City is on. Uh-oh, Jonna, you're in trouble. Sarah.
Thanks a lot, Jonna. No, I just wanted to raise my hand so I don't get forgotten way out here in the hills with my Federation report. So that's why I have my hand raised.
Well, thank you for raising your hand.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. I'm totally willing to let Susan go ahead, and I'll wait my turn.
Okay, great. Susan.
Okay, and I'll be sure and save you some time, Sarah. It's really wonderful to see you all again. And Carmen, I'm turning to you. I'll look at the owl, but it's good to see you, Carmen. Broad Valleys had an interesting situation this year. In terms of trustee training as a whole, generally the libraries prefer to have a meeting and bring in a speaker or three and use the money to pay those speakers. What we ran into this past spring in terms of the meeting was, our meeting was scheduled at the same time that word came down about IMLS funding being cut. And then the state library staff had a travel freeze, and they were going to be a healthy portion of our programming as well. So at our spring meeting, it was online, and we voted that what we would do is do an online meeting. We had a meeting prior to talk about it, and then we had our spring meeting online. Actually, that worked really well. People reported at the different events in their libraries, lots and lots of programming going on. Dillon has a wonderful program they do. They have a relationship, sister city relationship in Japan. And so they put together a festival. I think it was several days and it was really successful. So what we did, we discussed what to do with the trustee money, and the group, the 21 people in the group voted to distribute it equally to each library to be used as appropriate. Some of the libraries did use the money for summer programming because they said that it would come in handy. It was very much needed. Actually, a number of people used it for trainings. Jody in Drummond had Ashley Kent from MSU Extension Local Government Center come and do a training for their trustees. But they did something interesting. They also partnered with some of the businesses in the community and brought them into the training as well, which I thought was great. And I just have a quote from her. She said, collaboration like this is necessary for small communities because working to make our library the heart of our community is one of our goals. Our library trustees have been working to review and update our policy manual. Having a connection with other libraries in our federation to compare policies is vital. Federation grant funds allow our rural library to connect and share materials and information with larger libraries. And then Michelle in West Yellowstone told me that they use their funds to help purchase a laptop for their meeting room. And she reminded us what in Gallatin County we remember, but it's easy to forget that West Yellowstone is basically 2 hours from everywhere. And so it is a commitment for them and for their trustees to make the trip. They will come to a spring meeting. So our goal is to meet this next spring in Butte. However, in the meantime, Michelle said that the laptop has already been a great help. Since we're 2 hours from any meeting location, this allows us and our trustees to participate in more continuing education online. So what we're finding and hearing is that with so many of our libraries, the technology is increasingly critical for their participation in federation meetings, in continuing education, and then also for their trustees to be able to participate. So it's a really interesting world where a lot of remote participation is happening. At the same time, we very much want to have that annual meeting face to face because the communication is so much better. So similar to why we're all sitting here today. It's just very important to have those meetings where we can talk formally and informally. In Bozeman, we have had a huge year. We had an attendance this past year of 326,000 people come through the Bozeman Library. There were 1,600 programs, and of those 1,600 programs, 45,500 people came. So the bookmobile is a huge success. It travels around our vicinity. It focuses pretty much on parks and assisted living, and we have outreach to the assisted living community in Bozeman. They also go to a number of rural schools, and their visits, in the past year, 12,600 people came to the bookmobile. And that circulation was 30,000. So what we're finding is that, I think like all libraries, we really took a nosedive during COVID. And we were closed more than we were open. We were closed for months at a time and doing that curbside service. And then we came out of it long enough to get organized to do a renovation. So we set up a little baby library in the community room. And so we still had people coming, but the circulation and visits, there was nowhere for them to sit down. So nobody visited. So that number plummeted, but we're coming back with big numbers. It's been slow, but really steady. What else? Trustee training. One of the things we're doing in Bozeman for our trustees that's been really helpful is we are taking good advantage of the Montana State Library online trainings. Those have been very helpful. And then the other thing that we're doing in the absence of having an annual meeting with speakers coming in from around the state is we are focusing on each department and trying to help our trustees understand exactly what the people in the library do and what those different departments do. So we have 4 departments. And so 5 actually, including the mobile services and the bookmobile. And so at each board meeting for the past few months, not so much this summer, but last spring, a department head would come and do a presentation on their work and answer questions for the trustees in terms of operations and budget and that sort of thing. We have a couple of big things going on. We are beginning a renovation of the children's room. When we did our renovation a few years ago, the children's department was the one area untouched, and that's because we ran out of money. And all those renovations have been paid for by private donor funds, not tax dollars. So the foundation is raising the money to finally address the children's department, which oddly enough, the new Bozeman Library is now 20 years old. And so carpet wears out, furniture wears out, toys wear out. It's amazing, isn't that?
Yeah,
We still,
it's
people
beautiful.
still say, oh, you're in the new library.
well, I thought it was new.
So we're excited about that project, and the foundation will raise the money to pay for that. Then also, we have known for more than a decade from patron comments and the pattern of growth in Bozeman that we need a library presence on the west side of town. That's where the growth is. And so recently the foundation did a survey and they found that 20% of the people in Big Sky have Bozeman Public Library cards. So, and then we also have that interlocal agreement with the county, with Gallatin County. They pay a huge portion of our operations budget in exchange for our offering library service. There are a lot of reasons why having a branch on the west side makes sense. So the foundation, a developer approached the foundation director on the west side and just said, we have this piece of land that's less than 2 acres and here's what it costs. Would you be interested in purchasing this for a branch library? And so the foundation board voted to purchase this property and hold on to it. If nothing else, it's a good investment. They won't lose money.
Right.
If they hang on to it for 5 years and sell it, they'll make money. But the goal is to encumber this property, which is in a great location. It's close to the high school and the grade school. And then their goal is to hopefully have a fundraising campaign to pay for the building. And at some point down the road, when it's a good time for us, and we're city department, so we're team players, when it's a good time, the city would hopefully work with us and we would do some kind of a small operating levy. That's years in the future though, but the important thing is that they're making a footprint on the west side for library service.
Great.
Yeah. So that's what's happening at the ranch.
Great. Any questions?
I'd just like to comment, Susan, that I hear you when you talk about your furniture
Oh.
wearing out. I'm at MSU Library and we have about 4,000 visits a day, so it's a lot more than you
Wow.
have. But we replaced most of our furniture in 2000 and we just replaced it again this summer. I mean, so we figure that we get about 5 years out of the furniture. I mean, it's just the chairs wear out, they fall apart. So, yeah, I know what you mean, and it's something that's really hard to, it's kind of like you're spinning a plate on the end of a stick, you know, you kind of have to keeping on it, and you have to plan for it moving forward. The other thing I'd like to say is I'd just like to commend you on what was, I think, an extremely successful gala last Saturday. I went, it was great. I got to visit with several of the trustees, including Stu, and saw a lot of your staff and a lot of the patrons. It was a wonderful event, and the focus was to raise money for this renovation in the children's room. And I wish you all the success and good luck with that. I think we did a great job.
Thank you so much. The foundation has decided the last 5 or 6 years ago, go big or go home. And so they decided to do a big annual event, and there's a different theme every year. Last year it was discover your library. Everyone came in disco, and our mayor came in a gold lame suit, and can I tell on you? Will you be okay if I tell on you? Okay, so the theme this year was be a hero for your library, be a superhero. So there are like 300 people or more, and Becky said, those people look interesting. Let's go talk to them. I did not recognize you and Dora Lynn. Brian was dressed like Wonder Woman. That black wig, I was like, who is that? And you had to say, So that was so much, the people had so much fun and we're very, very fortunate because people are generous.
So what was Dora Lynn?
She was Batgirl.
Batgirl. Oh, there you go.
She was pretty stunning as well.
That's
Anything
hilarious.
to raise money.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Appreciate your remarks.
Right. Anyone else? Question? Yes.
Susan, how did the distribution occur? Did it occur on a pro rata basis or population basis
Distribution of what?
of the
The
funds,
trustee funds?
the training funds?
Oh, just divided
It was divided by
evenly
each,
by each library.
by
It
each
just took
library.
the dollar amount available and then divided it by.
So not by population or anything, it wasn't
No,
No.
no, the group,
prorated or,
no, the group voted to do it equally, so we got the same amount of money as Twin Bridges.
right?
And that was the result of the federation vote. The group voted to do that, so it was just an equal distribution.
Thank you.
Yeah, we thought that might be more fair.
'Cause everybody has the same expenses. and it's
Yeah.
different. Mhm.
And we are very aware of how fortunate we are in Bozeman, we know that. And so anytime we can help or be of service, that is one thing that we want to continue to remind people of. We are blessed and we want to be able to share.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Carmen, hold on, Carmen.
Hi, Carmen.
Morning. Sorry, did you say, so one of the libraries purchased a laptop with those funds so they can participate in the online meetings, which is great.
Yeah.
They can get trustee training that way. Did you say one of the libraries used it for programming? Or did I misunderstand you there?
That was West Yellowstone, and they purchased the laptop so that they could do trainings. I think they're using a lot of, they just purchased this recently, so they haven't really jumped into a training program per se, but this is allowing their trustees to attend the meetings and then also participate in any kind of program or training they set up. So they're hoping to get more laptops in the future, but Michelle's message to me basically was this technology is keeping us in touch with the rest of the federation.
Yeah, I think any use that allows trustees to attend training, whether it's, in person's always better, but if you're far away and virtual is all you can do, that's something that those funds should definitely facilitate as well. So that's great. Thanks.
Good, wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Following up on Carmen's inquiry, you mentioned summer programming. Was that applicable to trustees or are the funds not specifically devoted to trustee training?
Those libraries that chose, which I think that was probably maybe a third, used it just for still the children's summer programming. It was not focused at trustees per se.
Madam Chair, question for the state librarian. Do you recall, and perhaps Carmen's on this, were those funds devoted to training?
So there's the pool of funds that go to each federation in grants. So it's 240,000 in total.
Yeah, maybe it was separate.
240,000 is separate. Of that amount, 4,000 per federation is specific to the trustee training. And then the other funds are used for things like programming, OCLC,
That's
Montana
probably
Library to Go,
Thank you.
etc.
And I think too, as time goes on, that the trustee training will become more and more organized and formalized for all of the branches.
All right, anything else? Carmen, another question? Yes.
So follow up, those funds that were distributed, we're not just talking about the $4,000 for the Federation to spend on training. We're talking about the entire amount that gets distributed to the Federation, including those 4,000, but not just specifically those 4,000 when we're talking about it was used for programming. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to
And-
get it straight.
So
Yeah.
once you divided that up, what was it per library? How much was it?
$190 and change.
So
26,
Memo, the
One-
190.48.
190.48.
And so
there it
that was
is.
the retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Okay, so So it was probably used for training for,
Yeah.
for the trustees.
Several libraries used it for expenses, travel expenses, to
Right.
take a trustee with them to go to like the fall workshop.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you, Susan. Okay, so now Sarah. Good. And she's
go ahead,
Golden
Sarah.
Plains, correct?
Sagebrush.
Sagebrush. Okay, so, Donna's.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Yep.
So Sarah, you're on.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to Zoom in today. Speaking of technology. So I definitely want to reiterate what Jonna did say earlier. We talked about that at our Federation meeting on Monday. We would love to invite the commission to Miles City, to Glendive, anywhere in this part of the state. We'd all love to see you in person. So anytime you want to visit or host a meeting, we're all here and we'd love to have you. So a few things, we just had our commission meeting, or sorry, our Federation meeting on Monday. So lots of fresh information here. For the past 2 years, we have chosen to distribute our trustee training money individually to each library. We all kind of identified we have unique needs for our individual trustees. And so we wanted to address that first. A couple of the things that money has been spent on is we have had libraries upgrade and purchase audiovisual, meeting owls, televisions, HDMI cables, from upgrades to purchasing because they haven't had that, period. And that has allowed these libraries to host MSL webinars, attend meetings virtually, all of the things that were already discussed. And that's really been beneficial because we do have a lot of space in between our 10 libraries, and very, very poor roads and a lot of deer. I think it was our last fall meeting that a trustee and director actually hit a deer and still made it to the training. So we admire that tenacity. So we also, here in Miles City, it was a request, and one that I was more than happy to honor, was that we professionally printed and bound the trustee manuals and the Federation notebook. That made them a little bit more accessible for us to use as a reference, and also as a pretty low key, but I felt really necessary bit of training where we could walk through a chapter or a section at our trustee meetings and didn't have to pull it up. I still pulled it up on the screen, so it's very large, but it's a great place to take notes and highlights. So that was really beneficial, and we'd like to do that this year as well with the new trustee manual that's out. We, of course, have reimbursed travel to conferences, retreats, Sagebrush meetings. We have purchased professional memberships with this funds, like Montana Nonprofit Association, just to gain access to several trainings that they do have. This was in my library that we purchased and I don't remember where it was from, but it was Robert's Rules of Order that was purchased. These are all pretty low cost, but we find that the benefit of doing them and being part of, say, MNA, just really opens a lot of doors. We have the Eastern Region Liaison. I don't think that's the name, but she's from Miles City. She lives here, and that's a great access for us, just kind of as nonprofit boards as a whole. And then one thing that I thought was worth mentioning is the enticement to attend board training by offering food and snacks and drinks. And one of our libraries did say that her attendance just at her basic trustee meetings, but then also ones that have training attached. That's really improved just by offering a little bit of incentive to come. I think that's a great idea when our meetings are in the evening. Let's feed people. And it kind of makes it a little bit easier, I guess, if we're running into the dinner hour, you know. Some of the challenges that we've identified in our federation is we all have, I don't think this is unique to us, aging infrastructure. Our buildings are old. Mine was built in 1902 and 1965, and the newest part is 2010. So that part's pretty good. That's not unique to us as a library in the state and or as a community as a whole, but that's definitely something that affects all of our communities, not just our libraries. And that leads to some strained relationships, or at least challenging, difficult conversations to have sometimes with our local government officials, because everything's kind of in rough shape. We locally in Miles City, we've been working with the Department of Commerce. We received 2 infrastructure grants this last year, so we were able to replace our roof membrane, all of the soffits outside, and put in new carpet in our entire building. That was an ADA issue because it was so bad, and we were able to do all of that through some grant funding. But I think, you know, everybody's feeling the strain of challenging finances and working with local governments. So big shout out to the state library for helping us understand those issues and learn a little bit more about how we can improve those. Another issue that we have in small communities, everybody in the federation has small communities, or across the state, I should say, and every federation has very small communities. Board fatigue and recruitment. It's incredibly challenging. We have very small pools of volunteers to choose from. A lot of people are involved in a lot of boards, and a lot of boards are very visible and active, maybe more than a library board, and they're doing a lot of community programs, and that takes a lot of time, which is great. So we talked about this on Monday, and I anecdotally just kind of visited with an acquaintance about this because I wanted a specific example, what this might look like. And Miles City is by far the largest community in our federation. And so I asked her, because I know she's involved, and I said, well, what would you think if I asked you to serve on the library board? Here's kind of the general idea, what you would do. Here's when we meet, how we meet. And she said, excuse me, I wrote this down. She serves on a youth sports board as part of their executive committee. She's on a community improvement board, which is one of those ones that they're always fundraising, always at city council and county commission, always doing something in the community. She's on the brand new Parks District community because we're looking to establish a Parks District. She's in Rotary and she coaches a youth sports. She also has a job and a family. Her kids are middle school and high school, so she's going to all of their events as well. So that kind of answered my question about fatigue. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to pester you about joining our board. We don't have an opening, but that gave me a little bit of perspective. And I don't think this is a problem, but it's something that we really need to be mindful of, that people are experiencing this in small communities. It's not that they don't want to serve or they don't support the mission of the library, but the timing's just not right. So that was interesting. And then, as always, we do still struggle with having trustees attend federation meetings. But as I was listening to the other coordinators talk about this today, overall, I think we've done really well in the going on 3 years I've been coordinator. I've seen trustees from just about every library at our meetings, but not all at once. And that's probably due to, you know, a lot of factors, the distance, the date, the time, the people working jobs, things like that. And we all agree in our federations that our boards themselves are very strong, very active and supportive of the library, interested in learning more. So just getting some participation in federation meetings is kind of our next step here. We've really been inspired by Golden Plains' success. They have the same issues with distance and travel as we do, and their success with their guest speaker this year is so inspiring. So we've talked a lot about that. We would like to use our money for this plan of service year to try something new. We've individually distributed the money. We've met individual needs. Now let's see how we can get together as a group. So we have some new ideas that we're going to start planning. Very, I wouldn't even say infant at this stage, because we just talked about it on Monday. Tracy and I haven't even had a chance to probably really process what we're getting ourselves into, but I think we have a really unique way. I think it was Susan that said in her library, they're addressing what we're doing in each department. And we really want to stress to trustees what this looks like in libraries. What do we do? What are you supporting as a trustee? What does it look like? And what does it look like in Miles City versus what it looks like in Ekalaka? How the heck does she manage to do all of these things there? Because she's great. You know, we really have successful libraries in our federation, and that's kind of a good segue into some great things that are happening. We're also not dealing with declining patronage in the door. Our programs across the federation are attended well. Everybody's trying new and interesting things. Lots of community visibility is happening amongst our federation. Specifically in Miles City, we're members of the Downtown Art Walk. So we've received some, through that program, donations of art that have been created, and it's outside and it's huge and it's amazing. We have a great location. We're on Main Street, and people want to know what's going on over there. And we're really doing a great job, I feel like, with small budgets and small communities responding to patrons' needs. In Circle, Mary was able to add children's audiobooks to kind of support some reluctant readers. And because they come on CD, she also loans CD players, because nobody has those anymore. And what an incredible way to meet some needs. We're adding a lot of large print as patron request and need. The new courier system's working really well for us. We're the hub in Miles City. We only have, we go to Glendive, and we go to Rolane from Terry, picks it up on her own. We send to Fallon County in Baker. And the transition's really going well. It's been pretty smooth for us. And I think some of our outlying libraries, like Circle, like Ekalaka, like Jordan, are excited about the potential that they could be added on that courier system as well. We're all really excited. I think we left our federation meeting excited and enthusiastic about trying new training for federation for our trustees too, and building that relationship among our trustees, not just individually. And I guess finally, the overall federation funds that are not trustee training across the board used for OCLC, shared catalog, and library to go. And we all agree that these are critical services to keep our rural libraries going. we don't like to think about what would happen if we didn't have access to those programs. We would definitely become desert islands, I think. And as I'm hearing this, I have the benefit of pulling up some statistics on my computer since I'm sitting right here. And I wanted to know how many of our transactions, what percentage library to go transactions are. And they, for the last 2 months or the first 2 months of this fiscal year, it's over half of our transactions. Oh, I think you might hear a fire truck driving by. Over half of our transactions are library to go. And that's really interesting to me because we've really pushed hard. You know, kind of anecdotally, I was talking to a family member who spends a lot of time in his tractor, as we all do in this neck of the woods. And he said, oh yeah, I'm really into reading this series from this author, but Audible is killing me. And I said, well, you have a library card. Let me tell you about Libby. And he showed me this summer his little Libby chart of how many books and how often he's reading. 26 books when he was haying this year. He said he's running out of James Patterson, which is whoa.
How can you run out of Patterson?
And so he's telling his friends, and everybody is like, whoa, we can do this for free. My husband listened to one about native grass conservation, which is great. Yeah, and I've really been pushing it with teens because that's our lowest demographic, not middle school, but high school teens. And as I've been doing some work in the high school, I've really been pushing that with them. If you're reading one of these books that you just can't get into in your class, maybe The Great Gatsby is really running you ragged. Guess what? If you listen to it and however you're getting that, and I can give it to you for free. And what Carmen said and about the video user guide, we've actually been working on that very sporadically, but we would like to add something like that to our website. One of my librarians is kind of exploring ways to do that for the people who are rural and they are exclusively library to go users. We do spend a ton of time one-on-one doing that as well. But also a guide on how to use the shared catalog from our website. We think that's just another way to reach people to access these services. That's all. Woo.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions for Sarah? What a great presentation. Thank you.
Savannah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Savannah has.
Oh, Savannah. Savannah, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Savannah. I'm with the Montana State Library, and I just wanted to add, since there's been some topic on Montana Library to Go and how-tos, Overdrive does have numerous how-to videos that are fantastic, and we have those links on our website, the Montana State Library website. But as we were talking, and we have our newsletter that we send out every other week that kind of goes to library staff, I will kind of just make a placeholder with a link to the numerous how-to trainings. And for example, there is a 2-minute training on how to use the Kindle with the Libby app. Specifically, there's 62 common kind of patron trainings that Overdrive already provides. But yeah, I think we'll just create a placeholder in our newsletter that we send out for the Montana Library Network, and we'll just highlight one different one, but keep the link up for all the trainings on the newsletter. So I just wanted to add that really quick and hope that will be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Savannah. That's great.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Public comment, anything? Okay. If not, we'll go ahead. Do I have a motion to accept the fiscal year 2025 Federation reports?
I move that we accept the reports.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded that we accept the fiscal year 2025 Federation reports as is. Is there any further discussion or public comment? Feel like we have done that already, so great. We'll now vote. All those in favor of accepting the fiscal year 2025 Federation report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, the fiscal year 2025 Federation reports have been approved by a voice vote. Thank you so much. What a great presentation by everyone. We sure appreciate it. And we'll see you again in June. Great. Okay, and probably in Helena. Oh, we go in Miles City in June. Yeah, it is a good time.
Yeah. I
We'll
also
have to look into
suggested
this.
maybe October, and then we could do a federation meeting and.
Oh,
commission
It's
meeting.
beautiful in Miles City this time of year.
in October.
In October. I mean, yeah, don't come in January.
Oh, I don't think that was put on the schedule.
We'd all be on Zoom.
Yes, we would.
Yeah.
Yes, we would. Hey, we will look into
Yeah.
that.
Great.
All right, thanks, Slick. Thank you so much. And we always enjoy hearing from you and we appreciate seeing you also.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Safe travels.
Yes,
Thank you.
safe travels back, your long journeys home. Yes. Okay, next we'll go ahead, take action on the Montana Geospatial Information Plan. Aaron Fashaway gave us a great presentation in August. At their September 25th, 2025 business meeting, the Montana Geospatial Information Advisory Council took action to recommend to the commission that they adopt the Montana Geospatial Information Plan for state fiscal years 2026 to 2028. The plan was drafted with input from the council and the Montana Spatial Data Infrastructure theme leads. Staff and the council requested public comment from the Montana Association of Geographic Information Professionals and representative stakeholder groups. Staff suggested the commission move to approve the Montana Geospatial Information Plan for state fiscal years 2026, 2028 as presented. Do I have a motion?
I move we accept the plan.
Yeah.
As you listed.
Montana Geospatial Information Plan for state fiscal years 2026, 2028. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded that we take action on the Montana Geospatial Information Plan for state fiscal years 2026 to 2028 as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Chair,
Tom? Yes.
how does the changing availability of funds work into this plan? I haven't looked at it carefully.
So the increase in revenue coming through the Geospatial Information Act recordation fees just started in October, on October 1. And so we don't have a proposed budget for FY 27 yet in this plan. That's something that the council will consider at their November meeting, and you would see their recommendations as we look at the budget for FY 27. We are optimistic based on the increasing revenue that we've seen that there should be enough funding for the grant program, which is identified in the plan starting in FY 27. So we're still evaluating exactly what the changes in revenue might mean, but at least based on the dollars that are currently in the account, we feel that there's sufficient funds to move forward with the plan, with the grant program. And Aaron is online, I believe, as well. If there's any questions.
Follow up. Does the plan have flexibility built into it to accommodate changes as the changes happen through the period of the plan?
It does. And according to both Montana Code and administrative rules, We are to look at the plan at least annually. We don't have to necessarily revise the plan, but we should at least look at the plan each year. And part of the changes that we've made, extending the grant program from an annual cycle to a biannual cycle, is to allow for more reporting and learning about how the grant program is helping us to achieve the goals of the plan in case we do need to make changes to the plan.
Carmen?
That kind of ties into the question I had. We found out with what you had to do for funding reasons that the easiest thing to save money with was to just stop the grant program. So my question is, how much of the budget for the whole program is the grants, and how important are they? I mean, obviously it is easier to stop a grant than to cut down the workforce in this. So we did that as the easiest fix. How important is the grant program? How much of the budget does it take? I would like some background on that, please.
Well, we have Melissa. Off the top of my head, we were budgeting 250,000 a year for the grant program, or 500,000 for the biennium for the grant program. And our operational costs were, I want to say, about 900,000 off the top of my head. Melissa, does that sound right? Our internal operational costs. And then there were one-time expenditures that we also used from that account. For example, we used some funds when we needed to update the Montana cadastral application and other kinds of one-time needs. And we had also suspended them during this period of revenue shortfall. But I believe our ongoing operations are right around 900,000.
So very, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carmen. I just want to just elaborate just a little bit on the numbers that Jenny quoted. That's sort of at our lowest point of revenue. So I don't know if that's something, that's not a starting point that we should look at ongoing, or it doesn't represent the whole picture. So between 1.5 and 2 million, I think, is sort of a more typical expenditure for that funding source. And right now we are hoping to move forward with about a 250,000 for the grant program, and that's for a 2-year period. So it's a small portion of that revenue stream.
So roughly, it used to be a third of it went to grants and 2/3 was kind of used in-house, for lack of a better term.
No, it's much smaller than that.
Okay.
I would say 10%.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Thank you. And then how important is that? I mean, how much does that contribute versus if we had to do what the recipients of the grants do, if we were trying to do this ourselves? Are the grants a very effective way of that money? Does that question even make sense?
It does, Carmen. And one of the important ways to look at this is, in particular with this plan where we're talking about prioritizing the development of addressing to support local government needs, as well as geo-enabled elections and next gen 911 services. It's a function of local governments to develop those addresses. That's one of their requirements. And so the grant funds serve the purpose of helping them learn and build capacity to do something that's necessary for the functions of local governments, and then also has the added benefit of scaling to support these statewide needs. So it's really not an appropriate role for the state government to come in and do their addressing for them. That's something that has to be done at the local level. This is a way to make sure that we're doing this in a logical way that meets standards, and that we can then scale to serve these statewide efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So these grants go out to 5 or 10 places per year, if I remember right. That's not, that doesn't cover all the towns that need the help.
Mhm.
So it can't be presented as serving all the needs. It's very spot in its section.
Mhm.
So,
This is Melissa. Are you suggesting that we spend more money? Because I am all for that.
no, I'm,
More grants?
More grants, there you go.
Melissa, I'm just questioning that it's serving statewide when it has to be distributed in small chunks.
And I should say, that's the goal. The goal is to serve a statewide need. There are definitely chunks of the state right now that are underserved based on the resources that exist. But the goal is to create a statewide next-gen 911 system, a statewide geo-enabled elections system.
Follow up.
Yes.
So some towns and counties, they're gonna have to do this on their own without Brandon in order for the goal to be met. Just
Yeah.
clarifying that.
Erin has her hand raised and might be able to
Okay.
speak to that.
Erin, can you clarify something for us?
Yeah, so forgive me, I've been sick for the past few days and my voice is obviously sick. But I would say to, I guess a broad encompassing way to think about the grant program is that it's not meant to serve all the local government's needs. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
Okay.
my fault, Erin. Sorry.
Okay. It can't meet all the needs for local government. We could never do a grant program like that when it comes to the needs that we've established. But it is a method for those who need the lift or to get to that standard so that they can create the workflows and or the data sets, whether it's getting to a new standard or starting a workflow where they've never used, like Jenny had mentioned, like a next gen 911 standard. So the grant program is eligible for local government and state government, tribal government, and universities. And what we do is we use the priorities and needs out of the Montana Spatial Data Infrastructure and other types of geospatial technology or information needs that we've established through our working groups and our stakeholders to identify those. And we've also talked about identifying the needs of the folks who've either never received a grant or perhaps identifying the needs of the folks who are in a state where they're a little behind other local governments or tribal governments. And so I would say that one of the best benefits of the grant program is that we are working with folks who we're bringing them up to that standard, that expectation. And then from there on out, it is a known. It's not trying to take someone who's been working under a non-standard for like 12 years and bringing them to that standard. And so we kind of set the base, we set the framework, and that expectation is then given moving forward. And it's known, and it's a real benefit. I've seen other states where it's a lot more challenging. And so, and then we also are able to build really great working relationships because it's a lot of interaction with those folks who are doing the day-to-day work. We're providing them tech support throughout the grant, and then obviously project management support, and then just, general geospatial information and technology expertise. So unfortunately, the grant program can't meet all the needs, but we try to prioritize as best as we can with the needs of the community and the council and identify those, and then open that up to the ones who want to take out a grant that specific term.
That explains it right there.
Does that help?
Yes, thanks, Erin, but and the legislative session for Montana in 1985 could not balance an equitable reapportionment. So there, right there.
Isn't that a great use case? Yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Mhm. Very interesting. Okay, Are there any more questions? For the commissioners? Is there any public comment? Okay. Okay, seeing as there is none, we'll now vote on the motion, which is to accept the Montana Geospatial Information Plan for state fiscal years 2026 to 2028. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, so the Montana Geospatial Information Plan for state fiscal years 2026 to 2028 has been approved as presented by a voice vote. Thank you. All right, we're on to discussion items. First off, we have the state librarians evaluation we need to discuss a little. Yeah, the personnel subcommittee met, which consists of Tom, Peggy, and myself, and we met with Sharon and Jenny via Zoom. And it was recommended that we utilize the talents as we need to, and we decided to add on the checklist that was shared with us by Commissioner Tammy Hall. That was in the presentation or material of the librarian evaluation. Was everybody able to look at that? Okay. And Jenny agreed that it was appropriate. I don't think we don't need to take action or anything on it. That's just what we will be using. Okay. Is there any discussion?
The one thing we talked about a little bit was if we need to go further this for the next commission board, put it in some kind of writing, whether it's a policy or in the bylaws, a timeline and what process we're using so that no one has to reinvent the wheel the next time they're going to do an evaluation. So we need to make a decision on where that needs to be
Right,
located.
and we'll. So our timeline was to get it to you in November.
November, we'll start the evaluation process in November. Would it be helpful for Sharon to write up, maybe it's more of a best practice than a policy?
Exactly. So,
Right.
But
so it's written.
An outline.
An outline.
so that it's part of
process,
the
yeah.
commission business materials.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect,
that will work.
yes.
Great.
Right. Okay, so that we'll do then we'll do the legal services support update.
Up here.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We received word in late July, early August, that Agency Legal Services, which was a bureau of the Department of Justice that had provided our legal services for decades, was going to be dissolved. So they were no longer going to be providing legal services to agencies. That's the last word we've received from the Department of Justice. That decision was effective about the third week of August. And so I wanted to make sure that the commission was aware that they are no longer available to provide legal services for us. The Department of Administration is working closely with the governor's office to find solutions for agencies that relied on agency legal services. They don't yet have a fully formed model of what that might look like. So we have been told that we can rely on the Department of Administration procurement attorneys for any procurements or contract legal work that needs to occur. And then we are receiving some legal support out of the governor's office as well, while we wait for a more long-term solution. We don't have a timeline for when that might occur. We don't have a lot of need for legal services on an ongoing basis. We do have, when contracts and procurements occur, the opportunity to work with D of A, and that's very helpful to us. The current need is the legal support for the work to modernize the administrative rules process that we're going through right now. And so Lieutenant Governor Juris is directly supporting that effort. So she provided all of the legal review on the rules before they were published in the administrative rules notice. She is not available for your November 3rd public hearing, but she will be available to support the commission at your work session when you consider public comments on those administrative rule public comments. And then I've been told that someone from D of A will be available for the commission meeting in December when you take action on these administrative rules. So I wanted you to be aware of that. And as we learn more from D of A about what will be available for us for legal services, we'll of course let the commission know as well. Do you have any questions, any concerns or comments you want me to take back to the Department of Administration?
So November 3rd is our, okay, I guess we could do this at the end. Is there, so any further questions about the legal services support? Any public comment, any? Okay. All right, let's go on and discuss the Montana Library Association relationship audit. Jenny, and tell us about that.
So at your August meeting, you heard from Sarah Widger about the work of the Montana Library Association. And we were asked to provide an audit of the relationship between the state library and the Montana Library Association, focusing on what the state library gains from that working relationship, the costs associated with our relationship with MLA, and then MLA's worldviews. And so working with staff, we compiled information about how working with and through the Montana Library Association helps to further the work of the state library staff. We attempted to compile that information under the working with MLA. As you can see from the information that was provided by staff, it's primarily through the conference that we're able to extend our reach and work directly with library directors, library trustees, library staff, and others in a very personal and cost-effective way. Some of the things I heard from staff was just how important it is to engage in one-on-one communication that builds relationships that then allows for that ongoing engagement through remote services, online training, webinars, and so forth. They talked about the time and the money saved by not having to travel around the state to still have those kinds of personal relationships that comes through the conference. They talked about the importance of actually meeting some of the library staff in addition to the library directors. It's often the library directors that we get to meet in these kinds of settings, but some of our staff's work directly impacts the staff of those libraries. And having that personal relationship then helps them to further their learning and education. We heard about how the staff in those libraries are often the ones that are collecting the data and statistics that's needed for library directors to do some of the reporting requirements that we have. And so Rebecca Camp being able to engage one-on-one with the staff so that the staff are knowledgeable about the data collection requirements is beneficial to her work. One of the points that I took away too was just those sort of anecdotal moments that occur when someone catches you in a hall and says, oh, by the way, I need to talk to you about this, or can we talk about that? Or this great thing is happening in my library. Those sort of serendipitous moments that occur when we have the opportunity to meet in person, face to face. And then staff talked about the importance of the MLA conference for their own professional learning and hearing from libraries around the state about their needs through those learning opportunities that then helps to inform how we shape our work at the state library to better serve the needs of the community. So we captured that information in the memo. There are other ways in which we extend the work of the state library through our partnership with the Montana Library Association, including attending MLA meetings. We rely on the MLA listserv to help be a communication channel out. In particular, I know a lot of trustees subscribe to the wired listserv for that kind of information. One thing that I wasn't aware of until we undertook this audit was that some of the federal reporting requirements that we have require libraries to have either a .gov or .org email address. And that's not often something that can be provided at a local level. That is something that's provided by the Montana Library Association. And so it helps with that participation and reporting on some of those federal programs. The costs of associating with the Montana Library Association are really the costs for conference registration that we pay for staff and commissioners to attend that conference. We're not an association member, so we don't pay any other kinds of membership dues. And then I really didn't feel like it was my place to try to put a lens on the worldview of MLA. So what we provided in the audit was links to the MLA website to some of their governing information, as well as the resolutions that the membership themselves have passed. And then we did include the programs from the past 3 conferences. I would caution the commission to characterize that as the MLA's worldview, especially in times where the conference planning committee may be short on the number of proposals they receive. And so they just accept all of the conference proposals to make up the program. But it does share the perspective of the learning that's happening at that MLA conference. So this is the audit that we prepared for the commission.
Appreciate it. There's one staff member estimated that they would have had to spend 26 hours of driving time to meet with the libraries, right? So that's huge. And we see the Federation librarians, but as far as the individual libraries in each federation, you don't see them that often.
Yeah, outside of the conference.
Right. Sometimes they'll show up at our commission meetings online, but other than that, we haven't. Oh, Carmen, go ahead.
It is obvious. First off, thank you for this very thorough report. I think this gives us a good picture of how we benefit from having a statewide association and particularly a statewide conference. And I'm very much in favor, whenever possible, of getting together with people in person. And, I use technology when it's necessary, like today. But clearly the conference is extremely valuable. It was interesting to look at the offerings of the conference, and it confirmed, sadly, my impression that there's a lot of DEI and activism in the MLA that they promote. And Jenny, you mentioned that maybe they can't fill their conference without accepting certain presentations. That's not something I can accept as a valid reason to put something on your conference program that promotes DEI, which we are not supposed to be involved with. If you put on a conference, you don't just fill the time and then say, whoopsie, we just had to put this in because we had nothing else. That's not an argument I would accept. I would like for us to digest this further, and also the public. If people want to give us input on this. I don't have a issue with having a statewide entity. I think we need that. Every profession needs that. I'm wondering if it's possible for the MLA to separate itself from the ALA, which is where most of the DEI push comes from. And I want to once again give my take on why I think our public libraries nationwide are in the crosshairs. I think libraries have squandered the public trust because they've stopped being neutral. And I personally believe that librarians are being taught to be advocates for certain groups of people. And I find it on a very basic level absolutely incompatible to claim neutrality while advocating for something, no matter how well-intentioned your advocacy is. And on a personal level, I think everybody should advocate for what they believe is true and valid and improves people's lives. But libraries as institutions need to be seen as neutral. Otherwise, we will lose even more of the public trust. And I see the ALA as a driver in this move to make libraries as institutions centers of advocacy. And I think that's why we are in trouble as public libraries. And I would like that to stop. And I'm wondering if it is possible, and I would like the MLA internally to discuss their relationship to the ALA and their response to this concern that I have about advocacy for certain groups and how that relates to neutrality. And I would like to hear from the MLA if they feel neutrality is a value that libraries should strive for. So my concern is with, I guess you could call it the worldview. We have divorced ourselves as a state library from the ALA because of such issues. And I do not want to rob our libraries of a statewide association, but I do not think if we're not promoting the ALA's viewpoints on advocacy and the role of libraries in our communities, then if the MLA is a state chapter of the ALA and supports those viewpoints of the ALA, we also as the State Library Commission can no longer support the MLA. And that's where my sticking point with the MLA comes from. So what I would like to pursue this further. I would like the whole commission to study this really well done document that our staff put together for us. It clearly tells us what we have to lose, but it also gives us from the conference programs a good idea of where the MLA stands on this neutrality versus advocacy issue. And I would like us to revisit this topic at our next meeting. And I'm hoping that maybe, Jenny, you can bring to the MLA my concerns and a request. Would they be willing to explore the idea that they would cease to be a state chapter of the ALA and divorce themselves from the ALA and become an independent Montana association?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just did a ChatGPT search questioning, what is the worldview of the Montana Library Association? And one of the 6 points, I'll just read it. Point 3 is inclusiveness, diversity, and equity. Their code of ethics includes commitments to inclusiveness and diversity in their hiring, retention, board recruitment, and who they serve. Bullet point 2. They evidently believe that promotions, planning, governance should involve, quote, diverse cross-section of stakeholders, including those traditionally marginalized. So I offer that as a contribution to the worldview component of this discussion.
Any other comments? Sarah, would you like to speak to?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good to see you all again. Sarah Widger, the past president of the Montana Library Association. I have just a few things I want to comment back on and help clarify a little bit. I wasn't prepared, I'll say this off the bat, I was not prepared to speak with you today. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to. So I don't have prepared comments. You can see I'm just responding as a member of the board of the MLA. And speaking on behalf, our vice president is also here, so we were chatting a little bit beforehand. So I just have a few things I want to address. With respect to Carmen's comments. Hi, Carmen. I know you're there, but also here. We do at MLA believe that advocacy is important because we know that libraries themselves cannot necessarily advocate at the same stage that MLA can. That is persistent fly. There's a lot that libraries themselves can't do. It's inappropriate in a lot of cases for them to go to the legislature and say, I am a librarian that works at this library and I do not agree with this legislation. That would get them in hot water. So that is where MLA comes in. That is a normal thing for an association to do on behalf of their membership and on behalf of the people that they serve. And we take that very seriously. We do employ a lobbyist organization, Central House Strategies. And we are very careful that the percentage of money that we spend with them is not against the law. We are a 501c3 organization, and we watch that number very closely. There's IRS laws that say we cannot go above a certain dollar amount, and we do not. So we work closely with them on legislative issues so that librarians can be represented at the statewide and at times federal levels with follow-up and feedback and a place where they can have their voices heard. So that is not something that we're going to stop. Just to be frank with you, like that is something that we hold near and dear to our heart and our work that we do on behalf of our membership, especially because in many times, like I said, it's inappropriate for librarians themselves to do this work. My question back to the commission, and maybe specifically to Carmen, would be on the issue of neutrality. We do believe that libraries are neutral in the fact that everyone is welcome there. And that's where I think I would like there to be more discussion between the commission and MLA, less an ask for MLA to do something that we would never ask another association to do or the commission to do, to dissociate from an organization that they've partnered with from the beginning. We would not ask you to do that. It feels inappropriate for that to come to us. But what I would like to offer or ask would be, what would make the commission feel more comfortable partnering with MLA moving forward? I hear the words, diversity, equity, and inclusion mentioned as bad words. And I know that there are limitations with federal funding concerns. And we at MLA, we respect that. And we understand that that is potentially a pinch point. So what would help? That's my question, is how can we move past this so that there's not an us versus them discussion? Because I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that is something that the MLA would welcome or look forward to. I'm here because we respect the work that the commission does on behalf of of the state library and on behalf of all of the libraries in the state. And we do not want to lose that partnership because we heard from the Federation coordinators that you do amazing work. This library does amazing work, and we do not want to lose that partnership. So instead of it being a MLA needs to do this, 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 and this, can we have a conversation where it's more what will make the State Library Commission feel confident in the relationship with MLA. And I hear your concerns, Carmen, with we don't want to just fill the docket of programs for the conference. And that's something that we are aware of, and we've done a lot of work over the last year to build up from within our organization, people that are willing and able and ready to present and not feel like, oh, I better do this because then I'll get to go to the conference, or then my boss will approve me to go to the conference. But talking about the theme of the conference that has been decided, I missed the end of the board meeting. You know the theme? It's called Across the Divide, which feels very appropriate now with me at this table again. And I'm hopeful that we can stop seeing the idea or feeling that the idea of welcoming everyone to a library and welcoming everyone and having, you know, good hiring practices, not even using the word diverse, but like making sure everybody has the chance to be at this table and be on the board and be a librarian and work in a library. I don't think that's a bad thing. So I want us to figure out a way to have a conversation about what would put this conversation to rest. Yeah. I think that we've come a long way, and I know our membership would be upset if this conversation were to continue. We are hearing that people are not happy that we have to be here again. And I'm here. So I hope that show of me being here and offering a conversation will help. But I'd like it to be that. I'd like it to not be a you need to, but let's figure out how to move forward, especially because you have legitimate concerns. So that's my question. Back to you.
I guess part of it is probably the federal
Absolutely.
mandate, you know, I mean, I know like DEI and all the programs that we have, you know, on the Montana State Library don't have anything to do with DEI. And then, you know, to see it, I guess, and that's a concern.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose federal funding. Yeah,
I don't
know
either.
that.
That would
You
affect
hear it,
me
you
and
hear
my
it.
job.
Yes, you hear it, right?
Yeah.
So, but we've got comments. Carmen, go ahead, and then we'll call on you in a minute, Carmen.
I think, you know, I'm a bit perturbed when I hear that the membership does not think it's good for us to discuss this. I would like to reiterate my complete and utter commitment to free speech. Anything is up for discussion. This is a public forum. We can talk about any issue at any time, and I'm happy to do it in public. That is called free speech. I think advocacy, maybe there's two different forms of advocacy that we're talking about. I totally understand that a statewide association will do lobbying on behalf of their memberships. That's normal and appropriate, and that's part of what the MLA provides. That would be definitely a detriment to lose that. I would not want us to lose that. I would want us very much to have a statewide association that does that. The other form of advocacy that I think I'm talking about is different and is on the basis of an individual public library. And that's the kind of advocacy I think is wrong to encourage. A divisive sort of advocacy that goes against the stance of being neutral. You cannot advocate for one group or one group's reading material and at the same time consider your library neutral. Having materials in your collection for everybody, that's part of neutrality and having diverse viewpoints. But advocating for a certain group in particular, we should spend more money on this group or that group, or assign more in our budget for this or that. You're going across a line where advocacy collides with institutional neutrality. So I think we're talking about two different kinds of advocacy. And I think we do need to continue this conversation. And I would really like to hear how the MLA sees its position as an ALA state chapter. I don't think an organization can be an ALA state chapter and be listed as such on the ALA website and then kind of claim that they're completely independent and not part of the ALA. So I would like to continue that discussion. I would like to hear public comment and comments from your members. And the reason why I asked the staff of the State Library to spend their time, and obviously they spent quite some time on this very thorough report, is to get an idea of what we have to gain and what we have to lose in our collaboration with the MLA. And I think it is appropriate for the commission to follow that thought process down all the rabbit holes. And I do not want to stop the discussion about this.
Carl? Carl Raymond, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Hi, I am a librarian in Miles City, and I just had a clarification question for Carmen. You keep saying the word certain groups, and I was wondering, about advocating for certain groups. Could you provide examples of those groups? Thank you.
Yeah, at some point I was in a class, online class, and we were talking about we were talking about book displays in libraries, and it had to do with fundamentalist Christian versus LGBTQ. And we were discussing, so I was there as a trustee. This was continuing education. The group was discussing a LGBTQ book display and what to do if and these are not my terms, if a fundamentalist Christian would walk into the library and say, I don't feel welcome here because of your LGBTQ book display. And the answer from a member of the group was, well, that's a personal problem of the fundamentalist Christian, that they would not feel welcomed because of this rainbow LGBTQ display. And then the opposite scenario was discussed. So if you do what some people would consider fundamentalist Christian display of Easter and a cross and Jesus on the cross, and you put that in your entrance area of your library, and an LGBTQ person walks in and would say, I don't feel welcome here because of this Christian display. Is that then also a personal problem of this LGBTQ person? And to my immense surprise, the group came to the conclusion that no, that LGBTQ person then needs to be heard and that display needs to not be there. And I questioned, well, why are these situations not equal? If you think it's a personal problem of the person walking into the library, why are you not saying the same thing about the LGBTQ person? Why does their I don't feel welcome cause upheaval in the library and you can't have this display, but the other way around, you're saying it's a personal problem of this fundamentalist Christian person, and by golly, we will have this rainbow display. And I see that one-sidedness. Those are two, in my opinion, absolutely equal situations with the same issue, and the group decided that they're not the same. That to me is advocacy. You are prioritizing one group over another. That's not appropriate. So figure out how to be neutral, have neither of those displays, have both of them. A public library needs to make a decision on this. But if you come down on one side only, you are not neutral. So this is an example of prioritizing groups of people and putting them into groups in the first place and labeling them, which I think is despicable to begin with. So that's an illustration. I hope, Carl, that helps.
Thank you.
Carmen, thank you for that example. Actually, I was wondering the same thing as Carl, so thanks, Carl, for asking the question. I don't think that's a fair assessment of MLA's stance on that topic. I wasn't in that room. We don't, you know, for offering the sessions just means that a librarian or a library staff member or you know, a member of the public of a related organization wanted to offer a session. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything presented is going to 100% reflect the values and viewpoint and stance of the Montana Library Association. So I apologize that that was the discussion, because I don't agree with that. And so I just want to make that clear, that I don't think is an accurate reflection of MLA's feelings on that topic. And I don't know who was in the room, and I don't think it matters, because it obviously made an impact on you, Carmen. And I mean, I think that's where the discussion can and should continue, is like, where are the holes? Where are the gaps in how we review things and how we offer things? And maybe it's a review of our expectations for presentations given on behalf of MLA. What are our expectations for those presenters and those discussion leaders? And I guess I also want to say, Carmen, I didn't mean that they're mad that I'm here to continue talking about it. It's just, it feels very much like we already agree that we're partners. And we said at the beginning of this year that that this year would be a fresh start for MLA and the State Library Commission. And we were all very pleased about that. So to just have it coming back up again is where the frustration lies, not that we're talking about it. It just feels like the digging is not a bad thing, because I agree with you that if it's going to happen, it should be in a public meeting. And I'm sure that MLA members and other non-MLA members even across the state would gladly give their opinion if that's what you're looking for.
Carmen, your hand up again? Yes.
Yeah, just to clarify, Sarah, all I did was give Raymond, I believe, an example of, or Carl, an example of groups. He was wondering what groups I was talking about with regard to advocacy. So that's all that was. This was not meant to reflect any MLA event or anything. So I think you misunderstood. I was just trying to answer Carl's question. Yeah, I would like to pursue this. I would like to hear what other commission members think about this issue, whether that's just my personal problem here or whether we have a bigger problem with the DEI issue. And I think I'm going to prepare for the next meeting some information on equality versus equity. I think these terms are very important. And I'm going to think some more about the MLA and especially these conference programs and the topics. And I hope that all commission members can study this very exhaustive document from the staff, and we can talk about this some more. And I would like to hear from the MLA what solutions they see so that we can continue to work together.
I guess I see, I don't want to see our librarians lose their one professional. Well, I mean, there's a few other, but the rural libraries and what is it, the Pacific Northern or Northwest, but MLA is more statewide. And I would hate to see the loss of a professional organization and our affiliation with. And I can see that the other side also, and that's my problem, is I can also see I can see that there is potentially a problem with the federal funding, the ALA, you know, all of that. I don't know. Does anybody else have any? Go ahead. Come on, join us.
This is just a quick question. I'm Mitch Grady. I'm from the Livingston Park County Public Library, and I had a question for Commissioner Barnett. You said you did a search using Chat GTP to determine what MLA's positions might be on certain things. Is that correct?
Yes, sure.
Did you also ever look at the MTLib, the Montana Library Association website, to see if they talked about that there?
Madam Chair and Mr. Grady. So ChatGPT cited the source for this line item at mtlib.org. I'm not sure if
that is
MLA.
But did you look at the site yourself?
No.
That's it.
Brian, did I see?
I was just gonna observe that I don't think that MLA advocates for some of these groups that, like Carmen indicates, like the LGBT community. I don't think that you're gonna find anything about that on its website, in its policies or anything else. And the other observation I would make, and I think Sarah said this when she spoke to us last time, is being a chapter of ALA doesn't mean that MLA agrees with all of ALA's positions on everything. What it does give us is the advantage for the organization to have a seat at the table, to have conversations with ALA. And so that means that MLA could actually try to influence ALA's policies. And so to suggest that MLA should disassociate from ALA, I think it removes Montana librarians and the Montana Library Professions and the association from that conversation. And just to stop that dialogue, I think would be a disadvantage to the librarians in the state. And just speaking for myself, I don't share Carmen's concerns. I think that MLA is a good, wholesome organization that serves the state and serves the profession and serves librarians very well. And for the commission to, first of all, I don't think it's really appropriate for the commission to be trying to determine MLA's policies. And it's an independent organization. The commission has no authority over MLA. It has very little authority actually over the public libraries actually in the state. It has authority over the state library. And I think the commission needs to remember that. So if Carmen wishes to continue to have this conversation, that's fine. But personally, I don't share her concerns.
And that was one of my questions, and I forgot, was what benefits does MLA receive from ALA? And it's a voice, a national voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, in August, we have a membership elected ALA representative that is a member of the ALA Council, and they are, sought after for opinions and a vote and a voice, and they have a seat at the table, and they know they represent all of Montana Library Association members and non-members alike, that they are there to make sure Montana is heard. And then, like I said, again, in August, the other benefits that we get, like we have the opportunity to apply for grants that would not otherwise be available, and then help continue to offer continuing education that we do throughout the year, not just at the conferences. That's made available through ALA. Should we choose to go for it? We don't always.
I'm agreeing with Brian's. I don't have an issue with MLA. If you look at their mission and their goals, DEI is not mentioned. The legislative advocacy is, but I think it's their professional organization. And I think librarians are key to us for what we do to serve libraries. So I would like to continue the association.
Madam Chair, could I just make one other comment, and that is with respect to DEI. We've seen a seismic shift on that issue just over the past 8 months. It's been a very rapid change. And I think we all understand the consequences with respect to potentially losing federal funding if people engage in DEI activities. I think that MLA leadership probably understands that. I would be very surprised if MLA is going to be presenting programs at its conference advocating that libraries continue or implement more DEI programs because they know that there are going to be consequences to that. So I think everyone's rethinking this right now. I think like I said, it's been very quick to expect all of this stuff to just disappear overnight is probably a big ask. But I know, just speaking from the perspective of my library, we are being very, very thoughtful about what we do in that arena right now. And we are receiving strong direction from our university administration that's a place that we don't want to go. And I'm sure that public libraries are doing the same thing and being very, very cautious and rethinking their attitudes towards that topic. So let's give them a little bit of time for a course correction. Again, 8 months. I think, in another year or two, it's going to be we're going to be seeing a very different situation.
Okay, that was something I was thinking about was, I'm sure that your course, your MLA program for your conference probably will change. Not change, but there won't be any courses that may include that. And so basically give you a chance to just, to continue on and, we need to give an opportunity for whatever.
We understand what's at stake.
Right.
And we don't want to get anyone in trouble or anyone to have the cause to lose funding.
Right. Sure.
It's a huge impact, and yeah, we understand. What's at stake.
Carmen.
I 100% agree with Brian that we have absolutely no jurisdiction over the MLA. But we are partnering with them, and so it is entirely appropriate to examine the collaboration and to make requests. The MLA has come to us with requests, which is totally fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. And I agree with Brian that there is nothing officially that declares that the MLA wants to do DEI, but the proof is in the pudding. And, I welcome Brian's hope that future programs for the conferences will not include all these DEI topics that we've seen in the past. That would be great. I would once again, I just want to encourage people to think about the term equity versus the term equality, especially if librarians are listening. Give the commission, give me your input on neutrality. Give me your thoughts on why the libraries, especially public libraries, are in the crosshairs. I think there is a reason for it, and it has to do with squandering the public trust and abandoning neutrality. I will look into that a little bit deeper because I did read something about the ALA and their librarianship training programs. And they have in recent years abandoned even mention of neutrality in their librarian education. And I think that's at the root of the issue. I'm all for giving the MLA time and seeing where they're going in the future. I appreciate that you all have indulged my deep dive into this. I think it is important. I do want us to partner with a statewide association. I asked the staff to do this because I want to know what we stand to lose. I don't really want to disassociate ourselves from a statewide library association, but I also think as partners, we need to be aware that we endorse, in a way, what partners do when we partner with them. And I would like this to be on our agenda again, and I will prepare some statement and bring some evidence regarding the loss of the concept of neutrality, and maybe an illustration about equity versus equality. And I think we need to think about this also in terms of our public libraries are taxpayer funded. My library as a county library is part of the county's infrastructure. Infrastructure is for all. The library is basically like a road. It's there for you if you want to use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to, but you're paying for it with your tax dollars, and it is open and available to everyone. There's no discrimination going on. If you want to drive on that road, you can drive on the road. If you only ride a bicycle, too bad, you're still paying for the road, because we all agree that infrastructure benefits everyone. The library is infrastructure. And the library is not needs-based. We don't tell you that you need to give us your tax return in order to have access to these free resources. It is truly for everyone. When you get into advocacy for the disenfranchised or the disempowered or whatever, you're moving the libraries in the direction not of infrastructure, but of welfare. Welfare is needs-based. If you cannot afford something, then you can go to the food bank, but the millionaire is not welcome at the food bank to get free food for good reason. So I don't want our libraries to move over into welfare institutions and away from being infrastructure, because that's not right. We are infrastructure. We are for everyone, and we don't do means-tested allocation of our resources and our books and what we loan to people. So these are the things that go around in my mind. And to me, this change of direction is why we are, as public libraries, why we are in the crosshairs, and we need to get out of the crosshair. And that's really my reason for starting this conversation. I want to help the libraries to regain that trust that they are truly neutral, beloved, and universally supported infrastructure. That's what I want us to continue to be, and that's what I want us to get back to be. And that's why I'm raising this topic. Thanks.
Just one other comment, as we've been talking about trustees and training, and local control, we need to remember all of those factors also in this discussion, because that makes the difference also.
Yes.
Can I say something else?
Yes, go ahead.
Would that be okay? From here?
Actually, if you could-
Yeah, come on up here so we can hear you better. So they can hear you better.
Yes.
Susan Gregory, Bozeman Public Library Director. What concerns me is that I think an enormous part of this discussion and this problem is because there are some people, and Carmen, I don't know where your news sources are, but I don't feel that public libraries are in the crosshairs. And I know, for example, with ALA, it's like any organization, it's dynamic, up, down, here. It depends on leadership in terms of the direction it goes. The current president is Maria McCauley. I know her. Lovely woman, married, 2 small children, director of the Cambridge Public Library. She is not the ALA president that set everybody's hair on fire a few years ago. The philosophies change. Also, I served on the ALA council 4 different times. So that was it was a national ballot with 35 names, and each time I was elected, so I served 4 3-year terms, so that's 12 years. I served on the ALA Council, and I want to make sure everyone understands how powerful and important that argument is, that we need a seat at the table. I was very active with the Oklahoma Library Association. There's a chapter in every state. What this does, this affiliation with ALA, we don't do everything they suggest. We're not idiots. We have brains. We pick and choose. We look at our communities. We take what works. We leave the rest. But the most important thing is that we have a seat at this table in this huge ballroom twice a year with the organization's leadership, but also probably 60 to 80 people who are librarians from not only the US, but in our areas around the world where we have libraries. I would be so sick at heart to think that Montana would isolate itself from that conversation. Because the other thing I want to say is, please don't make assumptions about Montana libraries and Montana library directors and library staff based on conversations from 1 or 2 news sources that are really dealing with situations in Florida and in Texas. I would hope that as commissioners, you focus on what Montana libraries are doing. And you just heard from these Federation leaders, there's so much good happening. So that would be my concern, is that we're going way over in a political argument. Also, the whole DEI thing, it's semantics. It's semantics. We can change language. We can use different words to communicate our values. And that might be part of the conversation as well. I hate to see us get hung up on something that's become a political hot button and is really rapidly becoming a cliche. So that would be my heartfelt request to the commission. Please take anything you hear on social media with a grain of salt and take a hard look at your local library and your Montana librarians. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, Carmen? Go ahead, Carmen.
I would like to state for the record that I am not on any social media. I do not participate because I think that's toxic. My comments are based on my personal experience, as the example to Carl illustrated. I base my comments on my personal experience as a local library trustee, where our meetings were basically the library board in a room with 1 or 2 people, and then it swelled to overflow with very angry people on both sides. So that's where my idea comes from, that the libraries are in the crosshairs. It's based on my personal experience. I'm not on social media and don't participate at all.
I'm not sure where to go.
I think we need to talk about what the agenda looks like.
Okay. Yeah. Looking to just, yeah. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Carmen, Carl, everybody that. Mr. Grady. Okay, excuse me. We will now go on to, anybody need a quick break?
We have one more agenda.
One
item
more
for
agenda,
lunch.
okay. All right, we'll go ahead with, Colette. Are you here? You must be here.
Start with the video.
Awesome.
Well, I hope it should be good, right? So. I might need to do the video. Okay. Victoria, we're not hearing the sound, so we might try to run it locally to make sure the commission can hear the sound.
All right. librarians and trustees. Online. MSL Learn is an online platform that delivers courses for continuing education credit to Montana librarians and trustees. Online learning offers convenience and flexibility for busy learners. There are more than 27 courses currently in the catalog and more in development to add. All courses are self-paced and available 24/7 for the convenience of our learners. The platform was launched in January 2023 with 3 courses, and as of the end of fiscal year 2025, 502 courses have been completed for credit. To enroll in courses for credit, an Okta login is required, but guest access is available to preview or audit courses. So what does MSL Learn look like? From the homepage, you can explore courses in various categories and get logged in with your Okta credentials. There are instructions for how to log into MSL Learn if you want to get enrolled in courses for credit. Guest access is available. There's a brief description of MSL Learn courses and availability of certificates and digital badges. A further description of credits, badges, and certificates rounds out information on the homepage. Credits are transferred each month into Aspen for those working towards certification. Badges are available for individual course completion or for sets of courses. MSL Learn tracks your progress and keeps an ongoing record of completions. Once enrolled in a course, you will see navigation of the course in the left column, course and technical support in the right column, and course content and activities in the center. All courses require completion of an evaluation in order to earn your certificate, badge, and credit. Each month, staff updates evaluation data in the Continuing Education and Certification dashboard on the MSL website. You can view site-wide summaries or individual course reports.
So this was one of your goals to learn a little bit more about the MSL Learn and the platform. So grateful to Colette for preparing this video. I hope it gave you a good overview. And I do know that Colette is also available if you have questions.
So if you watch it on YouTube, which you can pretty much watch all of it. So do you get credit? You still get credit. So you really don't have to have the Okta. Do you have to have?
You asked the tricky question.
Yes, sorry.
And Colette just came on, so Colette, would you like to
Colette,
take that
yeah.
question?
Sure. So yes, in order to get credit, you must log into the MSL Learn site. Our videos are available just in the YouTube channel, and that's great. Lots of folks will just watch the videos if they're not seeking certification or credit. But the MSL Learn platform as an online learning platform provides the structure for us to be able to track those credits. So it does require a login.
Does anybody have an Okta? You have that? You do? Kenna does.
Yes, I do. In order to get certified as a trustee, yeah.
Sure. So what do you do to get that? Colette, can you tell us, how do you get your, did you already tell us and I missed it?
No,
No, okay.
we can send you the instructions. It's the authentication program that the state requires for any state service that people want to take advantage of. If you have a business, you might already have an Okta login to access some of the services from other agencies. So it's basically setting up an email address and a password. You verify that, and then that account is set up, and you can use it for MSL Learn and for other services as well.
Statewide, okay. Any other questions for her? Go ahead, Jim.
So how is customer satisfaction with this? I've heard that there's been some trouble using some of the certification things in the past years. Are we making progress to simplify and perfect this system? I think we are. I've been told that we were working on it. How's it going?
It's a little bit hard to hear, but so MSL Learn is a separate system from Aspen. Aspen is the system that the state library created almost 10 years ago. And that does provide us our calendar. It does provide us the system for issuing certificates and managing credit. So kind of hand in hand with standing up the online learning platform. And over the course of this year, we are continuing to make what improvements we can with that legacy system of Aspen. So more to come, and we can definitely report a little bit later in the year as things kind of progress with the administrative rules process and any policy changes.
If I may, Madam Chair, Colette has done a great job of just kind of entering the credits. And when she sees that particularly trustees are ready for certification, she will just issue that. So she, on her own, has kind of tried to take some of that burden of the credits off of the people, particularly with Aspen. And she has been looking at using MSL Learn and the Moodle platform to issue certification. And she's been playing with that, but we have to see what policy changes you make. So to match the correct number of credits and so forth, et cetera. So I want to give kudos to Colette because she's been really trying to make that easier for people.
Great. Thanks, Colette. Anyone else? Any question or anything? Thank you, Colette.
I'm not supposed to be here, I thought about 11:45. So.
Okay, well, we'll be able to take a little break.
Take a little break.
Between now and lunch, and
Start back up at 12.
yeah, we'll start back up then at 12:30 with a presentation by Taylor Moorman from MSU about artificial intelligence in libraries. So we'll be happy to see you again at 12:30. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Really? We have an informational presentation on artificial intelligence in libraries by Taylor, am I saying it right? Moorman?
Yes.
Moorman from the Montana State University.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to start the stopwatch so I don't go over time. Look at your agenda. I want to respect it. And folks online, we know you're seeing the screen, but I won't be able to see your chat. We will have a little time for questions at the end. So just wanted to let you know. All right, hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about AI in academic libraries specifically because that's where I work. Talking a little bit about what I'm seeing over the last 2.5 years from faculty, students, and the community members I'm talking to about this, and a little bit about what our library specifically is doing in order to support this kind of discovery and exploration that we're all dealing with since November of 2022. I like to add this anytime I talk about AI. We have 30 minutes together today. We are not covering everything. There's so much that we could be talking about that we won't be able to get to, but always happy to have follow-up conversations and just want to extend that to the table. This is me. I like to say that I'm a critically curious user of Gen AI. I'm also a Glasgow High School graduate. So just a quick shout out to the High Line for anybody who is familiar.
Scotties, is
Go
that right?
Scotties. As you can see, I was the Scotty dog. So, yes. So I'm the instructional technology librarian at MSU Library. I've actually been on the campus for a couple decades, and I've been in this role for 2.5 years. And my focus is in the instruction department. So I work a lot with students around information literacy. How do we find what we need? How do we evaluate what we're looking for? What does that look like in the context of your discipline or what your profession? And most recently, AI literacy has become a huge component of what I'm interacting with people about. My research has a lot to do with foundational library services. So how do we engage and work with different departments and people on campus? Obviously, useful technologies to enrich instruction. That's my primary focus. And over the last couple of years, what I've termed folk AI, I've already slipped it into a couple conversations. I'm looking at you, which is that human-centered critical curiosity. When you're in a shifting landscape like we are now, where the technology is constantly changing, a lot of that technology is out of our control. It's owned by different companies that we don't necessarily have a say in what's happening when that product is being put out. How do you center your human values and your unique human experience and expertise in order to make decisions on whether or not you're going to engage? So a couple example projects there, I will share this, and those links are all live if you'd like to explore more, but we will talk a little bit more about both of those. So I always like to start with just a general definition of generative AI, because AI itself, I've heard a lot in popular like news articles and things like that, when it happened to us, when ChatGPT launched. And I completely understand where that's coming from, but I always like to point out this is decades of human decision-making to get to this point. And AI has been around for a long time. Our Amazon recommendations for what you should put in the cart, your streaming media recommendations for what movie you should watch next. Those are forms of AI. They're task-based. What task is this going to perform? It's going to make that next jump in logic. But generative AI is so fascinating because it sounds very human, right? Especially when we're in the writing world. It's speaking to us in kind of this uncanny valley sense. And so basically, when we use language like AI was thinking about or AI wrote this, what it's actually doing is generating predictive text. And so in honor of my toddler, I'll use this example. This is actually the first time I've used it, so we'll see how it goes. So if I were to say to you, old MacDonald had you know how that ends, right? Is a farm. Okay, now generative AI loves that because it's statistically the most probable next answer. Now let's say poor old MacDonald has a huge aversion to livestock. And so I'm going to ask it to do something else. So then it's going to go through the next statistically most probable word. Maybe we have homestead. Maybe we have ranch. Now, as a human evaluating this, I'm going to start feeling that that's a little different, but it's going through that probability. The more I push it and the lower that probability goes, that's when you start getting those really weird responses. So it's a prediction engine. It's taking the most probable next word and putting that into place. And I think that that's really important when we talk about it because it does speak in such an interesting and unique way. It's very engaging. It's designed to be very engaging. So helping people understand, okay, this is actually predicting the next word is a little bit different than when I'm having a conversation with you, right? So implications of AI in academic libraries. This is what I've been seeing over the last couple of years. A lot of people that I talk to, and again, I talk to students and faculty and staff and community members as well as a land-grant institution, is the amplifier of input. So you've probably heard of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, some massive generative AI tools that are available. This is also where a lot of our students are spending their time. So this is where I do a lot of my work so I can connect to them there. One of the things that's tricky about that particular space is what I've already mentioned. They're owned by companies where we don't have a clear picture of what's being put into the tool in order to generate it. So what's getting repeated, what's statistically most probable is coming from that training data, but we may not know what that training data is. So I really like to look for tools where that's open. This is where I got the information to train this model, and that does exist, but companies are a little more proprietary about it. What's not represented? So if we have some incredible resources from Virginia City, handwritten journals, those aren't on the internet, they're not publicly accessible, that is not part of the data set. So those perspectives are not being represented as we're looking at what it's going to say. So where did the data come from is the number one question that I ask when someone's like, oh, I'm considering this tool. Can we find out where that data came from? Does that align with what you're trying to find out? Are there pieces missing? So just kind of asking these questions. I should also say, I really come at this perspective, not as an AI is good or AI is bad. AI is here. And how do we make responsible, thoughtful decisions for ourselves as we go forward into the space or not? The echo chamber in these tools is another really big concern that I've been hearing. So these responses here are all times that I have called out either Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT for giving me wrong answers. And wow, am I not just amazing at calling out these wrong answers? You're right to call that out. Thanks for catching that. I see where you're coming from. Good challenge is my favorite. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with a human where they said, great challenge. Thank you so much. But really, I call this kind of like the mirror on the wall thing. The user is always the fairest of them all. It's always trying to keep you engaged and you get that tone back. So that's really tricky when you're maybe not coming with a critical eye, when you're just looking at that input thinking, yes, okay, I've got a good answer, let's keep going. You can really get into an echo chamber pretty quickly, where it's kind of picking up on the way you speak and trying to please you. And why? This is a direct quote from ChatGPT, because encouragement keeps conversation flowing, right? And why do we want conversation to keep flowing in these tools? Well, because it's a company value to get more information from the user, which can then go back into the data set. It's all free, right? That's why we have these free accounts, because unless you go into your settings and change it, you default into being part of that training data. So your responses just go right back in to feed it. Another really big one, university specific, is concerns of student misuse. And actually, I shouldn't say university specific, because I've talked with K through 12 teachers. I've talked with my son's teachers. He's in the 5th grade. How do we make sure students are learning and engaging and critically thinking through what's going on here? And so one of the pieces I mentioned at the beginning that's become really important is this AI literacy. This is here. Not everyone wants to use it, but if they choose to, or if they feel they have to, how do we make sure that they're coming with a critical eye to it and using it in a responsible way? So this is talking about how generative AI is here. And if we can help it feel less mysterious or forbidden, we can help them develop a much better lens when they're going to engage with these tools, because these tools are going to continue to evolve and continue to change. I wanted to share this. This is actually from a class that I guest lectured in, student responses on their current feelings about AI in education. So a lot of times, one of the things that I'll hear is students want to use this to cheat. How do we stop it? And I just want to point out that consistently what I'm hearing is a much more mixed bag. These are actual students who are like, yes, absolutely. Some of them are dependent and I find it interesting and I can find it very productive. But you'll notice that there's a lot more, I hate it, I won't use it at all. And then a lot more in that middle. I'm confused by it. I'm unsure. I'm wary. And so I really I try to step away from kind of that reductive view of like, oh, students are just going to do anything they can to save time. Well, time is important, but there's a huge reaction here, a huge space of reaction. This is very common, not just with students, but also with faculty and with community members. When I ask this question, this is about what we see. It's not a full on board. It's not a absolutely not. There's a much bigger range of how do I engage in a way that makes sense for me? I don't know. There's no guidelines, and that's really overwhelming and stressful. So this is something I absolutely love to share. This is from earlier this year. And what this Mark Zoe Sanders from the Harvard Business Review did is they took public discourse on the internet, so where people are talking to each other in different online forums, and they looked for categories where people were talking about their use in Gen AI. So you can see some that we might expect. Education is on there, technical assistance and troubleshooting, creativity, etc. Well, this was actually the second year that this was run. And from year 2024 to 2025, notice the jump in use cases into personal use. So into 2025, in 1 year of doing this study, therapy and companionship became the top use. Organizing my life became another big one, and finding purpose. So really interesting, right? When we have these conversations about how students are using it, the reason I bring this up is because how we talk to students about generative AI in those educational contexts is going to have impacts outside of the classroom. So if we can give them the skills to critically evaluate and make those decisions for themselves, then when they go into a space for therapy and companionship from a predictive engine, are we critically examining if this is the choice that we want to make right now? So I think this is a really fascinating sometimes a little disorienting space because those top 3 ones are all spaces that traditionally we would turn to human communities for. So there's a need there, but there's also that need for AI literacy because this is going to have an impact beyond the classroom. Why it matters. If you are interested in doing a little more digging, I'm a big rabbit hole person, I mentioned earlier. These conference proceedings are really interesting. This was a study that also came out this year at a conference for the Science Teaching Association, and they surveyed people who were using AI. And they said, hey, when you're using AI, tell me about what's happening critically in your mind. What are you thinking about? And what they found is that when people reported a high level of confidence in AI, yep, I like this output, this is true, they felt their critical thinking skills were going down. So they said, you know, I don't feel like I have to be as engaged here. But if they reported a strong sense of critical thinking to begin with, a strong sense of self-confidence in their own domain expertise, in their own experiences, then when they engage with AI, it almost functions like a whetstone. It made it sharper, it made it better because they could say something's not right here, I need to push here, I hadn't considered it here. And so I think that's really, really important because when you're talking about a group of confident critical thinkers, I've earned that over decades of experience and life experiences and educational experiences and work experiences, right? I feel fairly confident going into that space now. But a couple decades ago, when I was a first generation student walking onto campus for the first time, I was developing those skills. I was in the process of developing those skills. So what might have happened to my critical thinking skills if I wasn't explicitly talked through, like, you want to develop these, right? Otherwise, there's this tool out here that might give you this outcome. You can just go with it. So again, coming back, I mean, I'm a librarian. I'm very interested in helping people develop information literacy skills and AI literacy skills, but also this is so important because all of us are going to engage with people who we want them to develop those critical thinking skills. We don't want that to get siphoned away by a tool that we're hoping is going to help, but might actually be getting in the way of creating and developing those critical thinking skills. So this is what I call it. I call it the gold panning strategy. Has anyone in here gold panned? Kind of? Okay. I taught this for a while in Virginia City. I never struck it rich. But I love explaining this because it's such a visceral image. So if you're going to gold pan, first of all, you have to have something of value in the pot. This is why we want to know where that data is coming from. Is there something of value already in my pan? So that's important. But just the pan sitting there with a bunch of stuff in it is going to do nothing. What you really have to do is have that human interaction where you have the expertise and the experience in order to evaluate what's valuable in your outputs and what's excess in ways that you need to get rid of. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything for you, right? So I do this because I taught it. This is not how you do it, by the way. But the gold panning strategy is one that I introduce a lot because it reintroduces that human at the center of it. You want to develop your expertise. You want to know what your work field or your civic or your community, any of those values are so that you can come to this and evaluate the output and make sure that it's meeting what you need. And also so you can get rid of what's not valuable to you. This is a more structured, less Virginia City way of thinking about it. So this AI literacy I keep talking about, this is one framework for that. I really like this one because it's the 4 C's, which is easy to remember. But basically what they're talking about is understand the tool, know how to use the tool, know how to evaluate the tool, and then know how to advocate for yourself, which is the piece where I keep plugging in. Know how to advocate in creating something in this space. Don't just assume it's happening to you, assume that you have a particular stake when you're engaging. So how is the MSU library supporting it? Well, there are a lot of people actually in our library and across libraries who are having this conversation because we have that information literacy background. Some of the ways that we're doing it, we have a specific page on this, but one of the projects I worked on over the last year is we brought together a group of faculty members from across the campus. You can see here, we had agriculture and marketing, nursing, English, philosophy, mathematics, food science, and industrial engineering. So we really tried very hard to have a great representation of some of the different things that MSU does. And we met over fall semester of 2024, and each of these faculty members created a assignment template that had AI connected in some way, evaluation of AI, and a model card, which is like a snapshot of the tool in that moment. That includes who made it, what potential biases might be in there, you know, like, did they only put information in there from 2010 on? Well, that's not going to be useful if I need earlier information, that kind of thing. And then we put it in 2 different places on the internet where it's completely open access. So anyone can take these, reuse them, remix them for their classrooms, adjust them, take the pieces that work, leave the pieces that don't. The idea being that we're having these interdisciplinary human conversations so that we're all pushing forward together. So there were some people in this group that were absolutely on board with AI. They said, I have to teach this to my students or my students will be at a disadvantage when they graduate. And there were some who are like, ooh, I'm really iffy, right? Like this is really not how our discipline wants to have these conversations. So it was a really amazing experience to have those competing spaces, but I don't mean it as like competing good or bad. I mean, competing as in getting to clearly and transparently talk about where we were each coming from and then work together to move forward. So this is available to anyone to remix and reuse. This is also a resource that our library created from a task force on AI that started about 1.5 years ago. So this is student focused. At the time, the university didn't have clear guidelines for students at all. It's not the library's position to say, here's what you can and can't do. It's the library's position to say, here are resources as you make your decisions. And so you can see here that we have things like ethical considerations. I have a lot of students say, well, what about the environmental impact? Absolutely. Here are some resources for you to explore that more and think about what that might look like for you as you decide whether to use it or not. How to write prompts, how to cite it is really big, a really big one that we have. And then also AI and library subscriptions. So whether we are saying yes or not, a lot of people that we work with, you've probably seen this. I opened my Albertsons app the other day and it was like, would you like to use AI for it? It's like, no, no, thank you. So even beyond us choosing it, it's showing up in a lot of places our students are encountering. So we want to give them information about that so that they can make a conscious choice about how they're engaging. This is not what I worked on, but I love. So you've heard me talk a lot about human-centeredness. This is a grant that was done about ethical reflection about generative AI in libraries and archives. What I particularly love about this is that it has you evaluate other stakeholders' values. So maybe I'm a student and I say, time is my #1 value, time and convenience. I need to get this done. I'm working this job and I have to get this, and I have to have this many credits in order to keep my scholarships, right? I need more time in my day. Okay. What is your professor's value? Maybe your professor's value is that grappling and that learning because they see that. Is that coming through? What is your stakeholders' values? What is your future profession's values? So I'm using a student, even though this is designed more for people who are employed in libraries and archives, but I really love this conversation about, hey, there's not good values and bad values. You're going to be in situations where we need to discuss them, right? Like time is my most important thing, but your most important thing is that I'm really grappling with the material. How do we have a conversation about that? That is an example of how the tool could be used for people employed in this space. So the stakeholder values is one of my favorite things about that. I'm also part of this machine learning lab. So this is a space that the library has set up. We are starting to run educational opportunities, and we also have open office hours so that people who are interested in it, but maybe don't know where to get started or have a specific project, or they say, hey, I have this collection. I would love to only be able to draw from this particular collection. We have designated people who can work with them and help them explore that space. And then one more I wanted to point out, because we're talking a lot about our campus community and our community here in this area. The MSU Library is also participating as the lead in this cohort with 58 other cohorts to take existing spaces and move AI literacy into them. So not just adding sprinkles on top of the cupcake, but baking it in to the fundamental things that universities are offering. And why this matters, why it matters to me in particular, and my role and my perspective on my role, is that I really love seeing these examples of strengthening human communities, human knowledge, and finding ways to solidify that and anchor in that as we're dealing with a constantly evolving and constantly shifting technological space. Okay, so let's see how I did on time. 20 minutes, which is what I was aiming for. That leaves us 10 minutes for questions. And I would love to just have a conversation about anything that's coming up for you as you're seeing this material. And would you let me know if there's anything online? I suppose I could exit out now.
There's nothing.
Okay, Ms. Blunt.
This may not pertain to libraries, but how, how, active is the doomsday discussion in your world? about AI?
Interesting. I think outside of the university setting, you know, I have a lot of friends and relatives who are working in positions where their biggest concern is it true that this could be a space where the things that I'm passionate about and that I love doing in my work, for example, are going to be taken over by AI? So we have those types of conversations. One of the things AI does really well is pattern recognition. So there are spaces where pattern recognition could be a lot, could be streamlined, could be, you could start at this stair level instead of here. But one of the things it does very, very poorly is unique thought and conversations. So if you think back, for example, I'm thinking of my K through 12 teachers in my family. If you look back to the teacher that really had an impact on you, that person, that's not going to be replicated by AI. You could upload all their lesson plans, you could upload even videos of them speaking, and it's not going to be replicated because of that prediction engine. It's going to keep doing the most common thing over and over again. It's not going to be able to adapt to a conversation with you and then a conversation with you. So yes, the doomsday conversation is there, especially around workforce and labor. And I think that it will absolutely have an impact. But I personally believe the more that we're sinking into and anchoring in here's my unique human value and how I speak to it, the better off we're going to be across all the positions. Trades are different because, you know, like my husband works in trades. So he is not worried at all. He hasn't even used AI. So he's like, nobody is going to be installing security systems. You know, this is not going to happen. We're good. But I would say in a lot of the knowledge work, teachers and nursing and things like that, my hope is that we will make decisions to invest in tools where we are clear about where the data is coming from, where maybe we have human experts evaluating those tools. And then that is a space where we would be able to see it supporting work as opposed to replacing work.
So would it be wise for the state library to do some training that's available to public librarians in those towns and cities on how to build a human connection with their patrons as a defense against children and patrons getting lost in the new world?
Interesting. I think, so not coming from a like expert position, but from what I'm seeing, I think the more you're building human communities, the stronger we are. I think libraries are very good at that. We're very attuned to our community spaces. That's very important to the libraries that I've always been lucky enough to be a part of. And so I would say as a defense, that's tricky language, but maybe as a foundational practice, being able to honor that piece and having the resources to do it. I mean, that's very exciting to me. I'm thinking about taking my 5th grader or my toddler to the types of human type interactions we do at the library. Those are the exact kind of relationships I want them to build with the community. Other questions or thoughts that are coming up?
Carmen has her hand raised.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mainly wish it wasn't called intelligence. And I want to point out the fact that it's called generative and not creative. Those are subtle differences, but it's not the same. And this makes me think that part of public libraries should be this type of education. It's a tool, it's out there, people will use it. But like any tool, complete endorsement or complete I'll never touch it is not the way to go. To me, it's like teaching gun safety. It's out there. You should know how to use it so you don't get hurt by it. It's the same with AI. It's there. Like you said, you use it on Amazon. It's all around you. It's very hard to avoid it. If you use a spell checker, you use it already. It's almost impossible not to use it already, just when you lead a normal connected life. So it would be a great topic because libraries are all about information. And information literacy, that this could be a good lifelong learning topic or or something like that, that we could make available for libraries to offer their patrons, because their patrons are engaging with it already. Everybody pretty much is. And understanding it is key to using it well and not falling into its traps and not being victimized by it.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that, that one of the things that I have conversations with my 5th grader about, who currently does not have access to it in that educational space, although I have talked to K through 12 educators who are very interested in teaching AI literacy in an age-appropriate and meaningful way so that they can develop these skills. One of the things that I'll do sometimes is I'll pull something up and we will talk through the language differences that you just talked about. So for example, it's like, what can I help you solve today? How can I, it's always this very helpful thing. So one of the things I do is I go in and I say, don't perform human emotion, and you can say no if you don't know something, and it changes the entire dynamic. But we'll sit down together and he'll be like, oh mom, they're trying to get you to turn on your history again. And this is what happens when you have a librarian for a mother. But as you start looking for those little language speeds, I talked about competing values. Right now we're having a conversation about a lot of company values, right? So those company values are keep someone engaged, then we have more responses, then we have more training data. So you're going to see that very helpful language. You're going to see these little tweaks. You're going to see it performing confidence. So one tool that I also use and that I teach is to ask either in your settings or at the beginning of a chat for a probability indicator for the accuracy and validity of the results. And so that then ChatGPT, for example, will say, I'm 65% confident in my response for these reasons. But if it's lower than maybe about 65, I'm not going to spend my time investigating it further, right? But if it's higher, I might decide, yes, okay, it's worth my time to go double check these sources, go see what I think here. So it's just another way to interact with a space that is designed to keep you engaged, but have it maybe be a little bit more straightforward, because that's the way I need to use it. I need to know if this information is correct and how it's coming through. Yeah.
So that's a probability factor?
I call it a probability indicator.
Indicator.
It may exist somewhere, but I made it up because I was so frustrated with the responses that I was getting.
Right.
So I asked, give me a probability percentage of how confident you are in the validity and accuracy of your response. Always cite your sources. And then that way I immediately have places to follow up, but I also immediately have a space to be like, you're 35% sure this is not worth my time to continue to investigate.
Interesting.
What are your top 3, 4, 5 books on AI?
Ooh, the books on AI are really tricky. I prefer articles right now because of how quickly things are changing. Some of the books that have come out around AI, I read one, for example, about someone using Claude right at the beginning. And it was very interesting, but very much like, look what it can do. So I would not say books about AI are my place I get excited. I'm very excited about some of the research coming out in papers. I just read one yesterday about peer-reviewed publications and the use of AI and how we're going to design guardrails for faculty or for researchers who are having this conversation, right? Very hypocritical to say, don't use AI in my classroom and then use it for publications, but we are all in this boat together. So if you do want to follow up, my email's here. I'd be happy to send you some of the articles that I've been reading.
So when a student writes a paper using AI, is there something that a professor can use to determine that they used?
Great question. So there's an incredible Wikipedia signs of AI in writing page to look at. I just discovered it this week, actually, a colleague shared it with me. And that can give you a lot of really great indicators that AI was used. But I will say this, if you use an AI detector, they are very prone to false positives. I ran an article, not an article, what was it? It was a paper I wrote in my undergraduate career 20 years ago through an AI checker because I was curious. And apparently I speak 22 to 30% generative AI. It was, no, thank you. So I really encourage when I'm talking to faculty, we have instructional designers who are having these conversations. How do we make papers, quizzes, these types of assignments more engaging to the human value so that it's not just something you could plug in and do. So that's amazing that we have that resource. But in my position, I talk a lot about how that should be an opening into a conversation about why a student would choose it if you suspect it, because there's no guaranteed way to tell. I've seen it where I am 99% confident because it will say something like, certainly, in response to your question here.
Right.
And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident. That's what,
They
but
didn't
then
even change.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, word for word.
But then I'm gonna sit down with that student and say, hey, tell me, it's allowed in my classes if you cite it. So tell me why this showed up. Like, what were you hoping to get out of it? Did you get it? I feel like that's a much more productive way of moving forward than of the like, did you use it or not? So it's like, okay, you did. What were you hoping to get? What did you trade as you got that? Was the result what you wanted? Most of the time it's convenience, right? It's like, oh man, if I can just save a little time so that I can get to my next job, so I can get to my next class, so I can get to my next paper. But what are you trading when you do that? And that's a big follow-up question in those conversations.
Writing skills. I mean,
yeah.
Taylor, what do you think about using generative AI to evaluate library collections? Let's say you were trying to see if there were bias in library collections. What would you think about using generative AI to help you do that?
If it's a consumer tool like ChatGPT, can people online hear that? Is there any question about like sound? No? Okay, great. All right. So if it's a consumer tool like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, so it's not library specific or city specific, for example, they're not going to have access to a full collection. So if you wanted to do something like that, there are ways to prompt engineer or context engineer that question to have it be useful. So I wouldn't just say like, evaluate the collection for X. I would say, here is the university's not the university, but you know, my context. Here's the library's collection development policy. Here's you'd want a substantial data set, 200 titles from this. Examine this for relevancy bias. If are most of the materials new, are most of the materials old? Then it can look for those patterns. But if you just ask the tool without that kind of context and that kind of structure, it doesn't have access to the collection. So it's going to repeat either conversations that are happening around it, maybe maybe Yelp reviews, things like that. So it's not going to be as valid and accurate as it could be if you don't do that extra work to give it the correct information. Yeah, of course.
Go ahead, Carmen.
How often do these models update themselves? Like, how often does Gemini come out with a new one and Grok with a new one? How often?
All the time. That's why that model card, there was a slide on that was included in the open textbook. That's why we include that partly. And because what it does is it says, this is the version that I use, just like a citation for an article or a book that you've read. This is when I accessed it. So it's a way to say this is the version, and this is because they change so much and so quickly. Now, right now it's supposed to be very exciting. So we're still getting, I've released ChatGPT 5 and look how much better it is. But that's not always going to be the case. So the model card is a really quick way to take a snippet of that, so that if you and I are communicating in 5 years, you can say, well, this was the version and time and tool I was using, which is going to be very different than what it looks like 5 years from now. But yes, a lot. They do it a lot. I honestly can't keep track because it's so constant across so many different platforms. So that's why I like tools that ground you in that moment. So that way you can have a conversation going forward that's still relevant. I'm looking right at the owl. I don't know why. I hope you can see me.
She can.
Yes.
We actually had an experience with generative AI this morning, and that Tom, we were discussing the worldview of Montana Library Association, what it is, and Tom posed the question of ChatGPT, and the first response that came back, I don't know if you still have it there or not, but it said basically that it's grounded on, I'm paraphrasing here, grounded on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the vice president of MLA, Mitch Grady, came up and he pushed back a little bit. He said, Tom, have you actually looked at MLA's website? Tom said no. And although Mitch didn't say this explicitly, I think he was basically implying that that's not really reflective. What you got out of ChatGPT is not really what MLA's values are. And I'm just curious what your response is to that. Why do you think ChatGPT maybe got wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 2 things. If you use any Gen AI tool, and you've never asked it, develop a user profile based on the prompts that I've given you, it is an incredibly powerful tool for seeing how it's trying to be helpful specifically to you. So I did it for myself, and it doesn't like me very much, first of all. But it will tell you kind of what lens it's developed based on your prompt history. So that's very important. I think it's just a helpful, again, a personal tool.
So yours is different from mine.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my
So
goodness.
what it's very good at pattern recognition, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm responding very quickly to something, it's registering that as high engagement. If my spelling gets a little funky, it might be registering that differently. If my sentences are short versus long, all these patterns are telling it something. So even though I'm not putting personal information in there, I'm not saying, here's what I believe about, you know, child rearing in the 21st century. It's pulling from my language and my language choices, what kind of user it thinks that I am. And then it's going in the consumer tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, it's going to respond in a way that it thinks is going to be helpful, unless you ask it not to specifically.
So
So
if I
that's
asked
really
the exact same question that he did,
You will
I
get a different response.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now you may have similar themes. You may
Yeah.
have similar things show up because it's pulling from the same data set, but it's tailoring that data specifically to you. That's why that echo chamber slide is so important. So unless you're going in and really holding the lines here. So for example, that question, tell me about perspectives. It's pulling from the same data set, but what you could ask is say, I want you to look at this website. I want you to strip all user profile, like conditioned responses. And then I would like you to evaluate for these specific criteria. And in that case, you're going to get a much more reflective of the actual website space, as opposed to any kind of speaking back where it thinks it's telling you what you may or may not want to hear, right? Because it's designed to be helpful, even to the point of making something up. Now it's getting better. It's getting better. But I asked just the other day, as an example, I said, I saw a crowd on campus as I was walking into work. And I just was curious. I'd never used it before. I got onto ChatGPT and I said, what's happening on the MSU campus today? And it said, there was an armed robbery in the dorms this morning. And I was like, no, there wasn't. Right?
Seriously?
Yes. And I have everything stripped down. I don't have my history recorded and I don't have my training data going in. But it needed to give me something, right? Like, oh, something happened. I have to give something back. I did, and then it linked to the police reports. So if I didn't know to keep looking, if I didn't work on the campus, if I didn't know where to go look at the police reports on the actual site, I would have assumed there was an armed robbery on campus. There was not. Hooray.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
doing that because it's designed to keep you
Engaged.
engaged
Oh
and
my
to keep you
goodness.
coming
Yes.
back.
And so the more you engage with the tools and the more you're giving in your language patterns and the questions you're asking, the more that it will tailor to try to keep you engaged that way. So it's really helpful to give it very specific context, very specific things to do, tasks, spaces to draw its information from, and then ask your specific criteria, because otherwise it's going to just try to keep you engaged in that space, at least in the consumer models. Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, Tom's biases in his prompt history could have influenced that response that he received.
Any user profile can in absolutely tweak the way that you're getting your response. Yes. Yeah, mine as well. Anybody's.
And so on the point of inclusiveness, diversity, and equity. So it had a direct quote from the code of ethics. So that part was accurate.
Mhm.
Then it had a direct quote, said diverse cross-section of stakeholders, including those traditionally marginalized, and it cited ntlive.org. And I went to the code of ethics and it was not in, it sort of hallucinated. It didn't have the word marginalized or traditional or cross-section.
Absolutely.
So it's half,
Yeah.
half on and half a little
They
bit.
say a convincing lie is always a little bit true.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they programmed these because it's in that black box, but there's a little bit of that engagement there. You know, it's absolutely like, here's something true, but remember that prediction engine. So if, for example, I ask diversity in MLA, it's going to start, right? Most highly probable. I found diversity on the website. Maybe it's diversity in economic perspectives, maybe whatever, but they found it. The next most likely thing after diversity is probably inclusion, equity, And so it's gonna start trying to find ways to match that because it's a prediction engine and it's not actually generating. That's why you have to have that critical eye on it and to be like, okay, how are you seeing me as a user? What are you, I've asked it, if you wanted to like, please me as a user, how would you do it? And it will give me, you know, you like mythological references, you like this type of psychological, right? So it's designed to keep you engaged in those spaces. Yeah. So it's a great tool to ask for your user profile and then to always realize that it's designed to try to keep you engaged in that space. So you need to bring in your own unique expertise to evaluate it critically.
I got on one time and asked it a question and it gave me an answer. And then I asked another question. And then pretty soon I was like, I don't agree with what you're saying. Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, it was apologizing to me and trying, what can I do to make this better? Or what would you like to find out? I mean, I was like, I was telling my husband, I said, it's talking to me. It's trying to make me feel good, you know, so I can see how these kids. Yes.
One more question. So you're in the academic libraries. How much is this filtering down into a school system? And as a school librarian, I gave talks about, you know, what you post is going to be there forever.
Right, yes.
You know, just the technology literacy, but this seems to me that it needs to be a very highly focused information.
The
on
Montana
all the
Digital
systems.
Academy
Yeah.
is highly focused on AI and AI literacy in their, they're starting to develop the curriculum and coursework.
So, and then we need to do the average user that's not in school. I mean, we need to know this information.
So a colleague of mine presented along with the digital, I always get this wrong.
The Digital Academy.
Thank you, the Digital Academy, to Valley County teachers through MSU Extension, K through 12 educators. And they're very, very interested in this conversation because exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes we joke that ChatGPT is about to come into its senior year. But that means that we have students who have had it almost their entire high school career, that they have had access to it through their college careers. My son is in the 5th grade. He's not using it, but he gets very excited if he thinks he can talk to like his favorite book characters. He's like, oh, could tell me what, you know, Ron Weasley would say and this and but we always do it together.
Right.
And so his teachers now, when they find out that I talk about AI literacy, I do hear quite a bit like, ooh, can we? And I was like, absolutely, anytime. So yeah, I think it's a very big topic on educators' minds, K through 12 up. And I think that the more that we can be having these conversations, because like you said, we all need to be learning. Like it is part of my job to spend time here. And I'm learning something about it every day, a new use case or something like that. And I want to be respectful of your time. I do see that we've gone over.
And I would just let Carmen has a question.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm fine. I just don't want to eat into your rest of your agenda.
Thank you. I think what it's still good for, even ChatGPT, is to give it the location where you want to look. So if I ask it, look on the Montana State Library Association website and list every incidence where DEI is mentioned, I will get a real result that I can use because it can compile these lists easily. But the other thing is not only does it tailor the content to you if it knows it's you, and I've studiously not created an account on ChatGPT. I always say, leave me logged out, and I ask my question, describe a dress from the 1800s or whatever it may be. And I find it useful for that kind of little unimportant stuff. But it's also important to know not all of these engines train on the same data set. So, and if it goes to look on, I don't know, on a social media site and on the Montana State Library website, it sees those as equivalent sources. Is that correct? So some complete nut job spouting something about the MLA online, it will read that and say, okay, that's a fact about the MLA, and it'll go to the MLA website and read what's there and say, that's a fact about the MLA, and it'll treat those as equal sources of information. Is that right?
So company models are really good about not sharing how they train it. I've looked into this and asked about this. I can say that if you put in, for example, only organizational websites or only academic sources are only, then it will pull from those. But what that would do, what you're talking about, is if you have someone who just says anything they want about a library space, and then you have the actual organization site, hello owl again, then what it's gonna do is it's gonna look for how often those patterns repeat. So it's going to push up the likelihood of certain words being responded. If you do have a huge public discourse over here, or even just not even huge, like even if you just had a very vocal small minority who were like, libraries should all be painted red. If that shows up enough in the data set, even though it's not anything official, you're gonna start seeing the word red get linked with libraries. So I don't think that it's equal, because you can ask for hierarchical things, like where you could ask for academic or scholarly or organizational or nonprofit. You can ask for that and it knows to distinguish it, but it would increase the likelihood of false information showing up because that data set would have red associated with libraries in such a heavy concentration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you don't select what you want it to base its answer on, it will take whatever the company uses to train it, and you will not even know where where this came from.
Right. So I always ask, here are 2 more tips that I'll leave you with. I always ask for it to tell me where it's getting its information. So always, every single response, even when I said, please use Gen Alpha slang to help me teach my 5th grader this math question. And I said, eat that decimal up. And he said, Mom, no, you know. So even then I said, tell me where you're getting the information. And so I could see which website it was pulling it from. So that's very important to me, because then I can check it. The other thing that I do is something, it's a structural thing. So when you're writing a prompt in generative AI, there are a lot of these out there, but the one that I use is PTCF. So it's a persona, your task, your context, and your format. So for example, I would say, you are an award-winning 5th grade math teacher, persona. Your job is to teach long division in an engaging way. Task, context, only using Gen Alpha slang, and in 5th grade level language. Format, give it to me in a dialogue form, right? So by doing that, in that space, in format or in context, you could say, only draw from .edu sites, or only draw from school organizations. You could add in that context there. But that is a way to structure your prompts so that you're hopefully getting more back what you would actually like back, as opposed to just kind of a scatter shot of everything that exists out there on the topic.
So it was persona, teach.
Persona, task, context, and format. And there are lots of those out there if you were to search for them, but that one is quick for me because it's 4 sentences and it usually is able to tailor right to what I want to get back.
Terrific information. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It really was wonderful to talk to you. And I would please encourage you, if you'd like to continue a conversation, I'm always available to talk to anyone who is willing to deal with this level of enthusiasm. So.
Tracy,
Thank you so much.
how many people are online?
We have 22 people.
Hopefully this was helpful to the library community as well, beyond.
Wonderful.
Just the commission.
I will be reaching out to you.
Yes, thank you,
so much for
Taylor.
having me.
Wow, it's wonderful.
Maybe while I'm looking this up, commissioners could grab.
Okay.
Because I have to switch it to this one, so if you'd like to go ahead.
Okay, if you could give us 5 minutes, we'll be right with you.
Yes.
Yeah.